don't need no wine and dine. I want something high class. Like spending my nights at home, romancing the podcast. Take a deeper dive into these movies that are trash. Meet what's in a bookstore, and then we'll smash. Roll call. Todd. Paige. The other guy. Oh yeah, Mikey.
Can I tell you guys a real story about what happened while I was watching this movie?
Yeah.
Natalie and I were watching it last night, and we were laying in bed, and she was like, I'm falling asleep. I'm going to fall asleep. I was like, cool. She falls asleep. You can tell when someone's asleep because they're breathing, just the way they're breathing. She was out. She had been breathing that way, like almost borderline snoring. She doesn't really snore, but it's like on the line, right? But that song came on, and she woke up singing that song.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I literally like turned over and was like, what happened? She was like, I love this song. And I was like, you've been asleep for 20 minutes.
Oh my God, dude.
I, just like Miss Congeniality, was obsessed with the soundtrack and knew all the songs.
Yeah.
But specifically Perfect Day. It's a banger.
I think I liked this more than Miss Congeniality.
I did too.
We have to start the podcast first.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for tuning into Romancing the Pod. I'm Paige.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm Todd. We normally say our whole names.
We do.
But like, why do we do that? I don't even like my full name.
Is it because it's your dad's name, Mikey?
Yeah. My dad, Microphone Randolph. Thank you for tuning into Romancing the Pod. You had us at hello. I'm Paige Wesley.
I'm Mikey Randolph.
And I'm Todd Schlosser. And joining us today is the lovely Andrea Guzzetta!
Yay! It's the perfect day.
So, Andrea, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm so excited. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. Rewatching it with a friend, I realized, wow, pretty problematic in some areas.
Yeah.
But like, I think anytime a hot, rich white woman can center herself as the victim, I'm here for it.
Yeah, honestly, no notes. No notes for this, Karen.
I mean, okay, here's what I will say. This movie is not perfect. It is problematic. There are some issues with this film. However, I do like that there are some opportunities that this movie had for additional fat shaming where they actively take a different route. And that is notable for this time period.
Yeah, because this was like 2001, right?
Right.
Yep.
Secondly, I love a movie where the main character succeeds by being themselves and aggressively by being themselves and believing in their own capability.
Like Silence of the Lambs, like Hannibal.
Watching this last night with my dad, I was like, damn, this shit holds up.
I liked all the non-legal case stuff.
Yes, the legal case stuff bothers me because I've now watched way more Law and Order.
I was like, just use your alibi. Like, what?
Yeah.
Why would you not? You're gonna go to jail.
I'd rather lose my reputation than go to jail, Mikey. That's for me. Like, I realize she's the opposite, but that's bonkers.
It's not like a DUI where you're going in for like 24 hours or like you like rob somebody. It's like you get like 6 weeks of vacation.
Like murder jail. Like Orange
Lifetime.
is the New Black, 4 years jail.
Forever.
Well, and here's what I didn't realize as a young person watching this movie. I did not realize or think through the fact that if she had just given her alibi to the police before it gets to court, it would have never gotten out.
She never would have been charged.
she never would have had to, like...
I honestly didn't even think of that. That's so perfect.
Right?
I
That's
did.
so
I
funny.
was like, this case is terrible. Like, this is the dumbest case.
Also, I was today years old when I realized that Linda Cardellini's character's name is Chutney. And I was like, you really name a kid Chutney? Okay.
That's a horrible name.
And that's why she shot her father.
Well, it kind of makes sense. If someone named me Chutney and I had to live with that forever, I'd be like, yeah, you named me after a snack. Why? Why did you do this?
But you are a snack.
Aww. Speaking of that, Andrea, did you see the picture that Paige sent you from last week's episode?
Oh my God, I did. Wow. And I can't unsee it is really the problem.
Well, my favorite is that your initial response to it was just like, I don't know, it looks like a Halloween picture. And then I was like, I need you to look a little closer. And then you were like, oh no.
I do love that Andrea is like this sweet, sweet person and doesn't think of that stuff immediately. Because the first thing I saw was the fucking vitamin water in Mikey's pants.
It's so big. I thought it was like some type of illness. I was just like, I thought it was like when you wash your clothes and you have like a roll of socks stuck in your pants and you don't notice the whole day. Like I was just like, something happened here.
I love this so much.
It's false It's all false advertising.
Mikey is as red as his shirt right now, and I realize no one can see that, but it's super red.
But I was going to prepare my Halloween Instagram post with I was like picking all the cool pictures, and I was like, well, this one doesn't look right.
Mikey, it looks real right. I do love that the only people who have seen it are the people on this Zoom call.
Actually, no, because when my dad picked me up from the airport, he had just listened to that episode, and I was just like, let me show you what we're referencing. And he was just like,
Paige. What did Dad think about it?
He agrees with me, where we think it's a cross between the flimsiness of the Halloween costume material, the fact that you're kind of sitting and leaning, and then like the light. We think that's what's doing it.
I have to say though, Mikey, with as rabid as your fans are, you cannot put this on the internet.
No,
there's no way.
It'll break the internet.
No, I don't want to do that.
It'll break the internet in half, Mikey.
The last thing I want to do is start a rumor that I have a huge dick, and then that way I'll have exes coming out of the woodwork being like, no, he doesn't.
I seen it.
I don't need that conversation in the public.
That's why I always make jokes about how small I am, because my exes aren't going to come out of the woodwork to just confirm it.
Right.
They're like, no, you heard the man.
Should we stop talking about Mikey's dick and get into the episode, though?
Oh, I don't know about that.
For a second, I thought Mikey was going hard in the Highlander vibes, and then I realized he's just had a power outage and it's cold where you are.
Yeah, I'm freezing.
No, that's actually the tartan of Clan McMuffin. Fun fact, though, I was joking with my mom about Clan McMuffin yesterday because why not? And she was like, yeah, you know that you have like Scottish ancestry and you're related to like a famous Scottish football player from the 1800s, right? And I was just like,
No.
All right, guys, name your top 3 most famous Scottish
football players from the 1800s.
1800s.
You got Pele. You got...
He was from the 70s.
Pele.
And also Brazil, Mikey.
Oh, yeah, I'm aware.
You got Terrell Owens.
Okay, well, so Legally Blonde was okay.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
So what do you all think about Legally Blonde?
I would say it's one of my comfort films. It's a movie that I watch hundreds of times. I really like it. Like, I do like the idea that she, as someone who's blonde, I also get discriminated against for being dumb and kind of flighty, but I'm actually like really smart, you guys. So like I've always identified with that aspect of her character. But I do think that, like, on the rewatch, like, I was watching it with a friend and he was like, oh, so there's the only black person in this film. And it was like someone in the party scene at the very beginning. And I was like, okay, yeah.
There are actually a number, but they are all background. There
all
are
background.
no main characters of color in this film.
I just know the plight of blonde women is just... It's just underrepresented, and like I'm just glad there's a film for them.
Women are underrepresented in films.
Yeah, there needs to be more of us in the world for sure. Yelling at baristas and playing the victim when we have not earned it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I love the film, but there's definitely some moments where it's like, like especially playing with gay stereotypes and like, just like her kind of coming in to swoop in as the victim in a certain moment where you're kind of like, well, you're also not treating this character in the way that you're expecting other people to treat him, which we'll talk about when we get to it. But like the tall guy, when she's like pretends that they slept together or something, it's like, but you would never sleep with that guy either.
Right. Well, and she starts out that conversation by physically hitting him in the face.
Yes. Very aggressive. Yeah. And she also like, the plot is that she's trying to steal back someone else's boyfriend, which makes her the villain.
Reese Witherspoon has that pattern.
Yeah, she's been the villain of every film we've had her in for the most part. Oh, wait, except for Cruel Intentions.
But she didn't she didn't actively sabotage. She didn't do anything terrible.
There's a dividing line in this movie where she actively stops trying to sabotage anything and stops trying to go after him.
I feel like it's pretty early on too, right? Like
it is pretty early on, and it's very defined in the film. And from that point forward, not only is she not trying to get him back, she actively tries to befriend his girlfriend and is kind to her and is very clearly like, this person is not my enemy. And that's how they kind of end the movie out. And I really do like that. I do like that at a certain point, this movie makes it very clear that it's like, these other women are not my enemy. I can't base my entire life on whether or not this dude's going to take me back. I am worth putting in the effort, and I am worth this story, if that makes sense, for the rest of the movie.
I do like that she goes to Harvard Law just to get him back, and then like when she realizes she doesn't want him back, it's like, well, fuck it. I guess I'm in law school. I may as well just ride it out.
I guess I'm gonna be a fucking lawyer, yo. Yeah.
You know how you just change your career path on a whim like that.
Oh, I've done that so many times in my life, though, Andrea. Like that's the only part of this movie that made sense to me.
Where you're just like, I'll move to California and just.
God.
He did it for a partner too.
Yeah, that's why I'm making fun of him.
I am Reese Witherspoon in this movie. And if you ask my ex-girlfriend, I'm also the villain.
I mean, I will say, I really respect her being like, no, you know what? Damn it. I'm good at this and I'm fucking smart.
Yeah.
And initially this is going to be spite, but I'm also going to do this for me. And I kind of love that.
Lots of great things in my life have started as spite.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I could see that, Mikey. That feels true for you. So should we get into this movie or what's up?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's jump into it, Paige.
What was the release date of this movie?
2001. You want the actual date?
Uh-huh.
I mean, we'll cover it in box office, but the actual day it came out was July 13th. 2001. It is a
that checks out.
Yeah, it's a pre-September 11th world. Barely, but yeah.
I was thinking, what pushed Osama bin Laden over the edge?
Oh, God.
Is the song Perfect Day by Hoku?
Oh, wow. Well, that's a hot take. But honestly, I don't think we'll ever know if it is this or not.
I'm just imagining Osama bin Laden dressed all in pink holding a tiny dog right now, and I can't stop.
That's how I prefer to remember him.
That's all they found at that compound.
Oddly enough, he wore all pink the whole time. Like, even when he was hiding in that bunker.
Did you not watch that Zero Dark 30 movie? It has all of that in there.
Osama bin Laden actually just became a terrorist to spite an ex.
I moved all the way to Afghanistan. I got into terrorist school, and he's engaged to some bitch.
Actually, true facts, Osama bin Laden became a terrorist to impress his father, who was interested in that stuff. Anyway, fun fact. Legally Blonde, though.
And listen, Al Qaeda is a lot like the sorority house she grew up in.
No, it is not. And I will aggressively be pro sorority in this film. Now, it's not that they are not problematic. There are problems in that sorority house. But the thing that I love about the sorority sisters in this movie that I would say is very real to my sorority experience is that they are incredibly supportive. They go out of their way to help her. And not just when she's living in the house. Like, they show up for her.
I really like in the film that she doesn't really know, and I forget her name, but the lady who is like on trial, she doesn't really know her.
Yeah,
she attended some of her classes, but they're just like, is it Delta Nu? Is that the sorority?
They're Delta
News.
Yeah, so like they're just sorority sisters. So she immediately is like, oh no, she's a good person. She is like on board. She didn't do it immediately.
That's a slippery.
It is, Mikey. Because like sometimes you're wrong.
Yeah, you are absolutely like she absolutely could have been wrong. I mean, I think from the point that we get the alibi, we know that she's not. But you can't base, criminal proceedings on the bonds of sisterhood.
And I'll say this, not of sororities, but of any group. If you have a large group, you're going to have some bad people in any large group,
Yeah, absolutely. Like there was a girl who used to like sit naked on the couch in the living room, and it's like,
tell me more about this girl.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, it sounds awful. Can you describe in detail what that looked like, Paige?
Like, did people take pictures?
We hit her with pillows flirtily until she went away. No, but she was the reason that we had to have a 2-layer rule, in that there should be at least a minimum of 2 layers of fabric between me and your genitals.
As someone that believes in layers, I feel like a layer rule is a good rule. I feel like it should be more than 2, but that's fine. We can start with 2.
She also used to microwave fish a lot.
She's the worst kind of person.
She's the worst.
Todd's a layer extremist over here. He takes it too far.
Yeah. I don't know if you know, it's because his ex was a layer and he followed her all the way to layer school. And then just took it too far.
The thing is, she actually went to lawyer school, and I just misheard her and enrolled in layer school. And when I got there, I was like, fuck it, I'm here. I may as well become a layer expert.
Yeah. I'm going to sign up for that jacket internship.
History of polka dots.
But her sisters show up for her, though, and they support her the whole time. And I love that. Because I have been out of college for 10 years at this point, and my sorority sisters still show up to stuff. Like, I can guarantee people will be at shows. Like, they came to live Cult podcast episodes. There were some at the Horror Virgin meetup.
I'm friends with some of Paige's sorority sisters because they showed up to Cult podcast stuff, and now we're friends. Like, they're really nice people.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. Again, her sorority, aggressively white.
In that tracking shot at the very beginning when they follow her through the fucking Delta New mansion that has its own like built-in like gym and craft room and all that shit, everyone is tallish, blonde, and like skinny. Every one of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was not the case for my sorority experience. Obviously, I didn't just like, I wasn't a skinny blonde in college and then was just like, fuck it, nachos are king. Like, that's not, I've been living this life for a while. Anyway, enough sorority talk. That's where we open this film, is basically a tracking shot through the sorority house to deliver a card to Elle Woods that's congratulating her on what they believe to be her impending engagement.
Yes.
Yeah, the one thing that was like funny, and of course it is for the film, is just how all of the sorority sisters, you know, are constantly like waiting by the door, or like they seem to sort of be like they don't have anything else to do that night except for like spritz her with perfume, which is really funny to me. But it's also, we understand that this is for the service of the film and it's supposed to be seen as this like supportive thing. But I was thinking, like, do they just not have plans? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, on nights when you don't have mixers, you usually end up just in the common room watching Law and Order and ordering pizza, which is pretty fucking sweet. But we used to wait because the guy chapters in our like little collective Greek neighborhood would streak. And so we would like line up to call dudes who were streaking. And then one time it rained and the president of Fiji slipped and scraped up his ass on the concrete as we all watched, and it was funny as shit. And then he couldn't sit down well for like a week. Anyway, so they deliver the card. She's very excited. This is our first kind of look at Elle and her very pink world. Yeah. And I will like every single thing she wears in this film, flawless. Every outfit's amazing.
Yeah.
This is peak blonde. Like, I feel like it made me want to be blonde. I've been a proud brunette my entire life. I wanted to be blonde watching this. I was like, damn, that looks so good.
You're like, I could bleach my hair, I guess.
It's very much of that time.
You're absolutely right, because I kept noticing things that she had or was using that I was like, oh my God, take me back. Like, she is exclusively wearing Clinique Happy, which was the fragrance at the time. And she's using Clinique makeup, and so is everyone else in the film. Like,
they even call it out when she brings it to her in the prison.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and anytime somebody is seen using any makeup on screen in this film at any time, it is Clinique. And it's this like they're these kind of like green marbled cases. And I think their packaging's different now. But at the time, that was like the thing. All of her shampoo is herbal essences. And any shampoo you see in the film is herbal essences. Yeah. It's like a whole mood.
Well, and just like the color pop, the like the color blocking, the fuzzy phone, like the blow up furniture. Do you remember having blow up furniture?
Inflatable furniture. Yes. With a dog too. That's a risk.
Dude, Bruiser's my favorite in this movie. I love that little dog.
He has so much personality. I noticed too this, like, I don't think I noticed it on other watches, but he gives you a warning anytime someone's doing something shady.
Yes.
So he'll give like a little warning bark, like, whoa, don't trust this guy. I never really realized that it happens almost every single time, that you can't trust someone.
Yeah, I didn't notice it until last night. And then I started looking for it because he barks when
she gets invited to the party.
And then in court when the pool guy is lying. Like, it's like very, very subtle.
He barks when Callahan asks for her resume too.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's always, he's always like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, so Elle's on the phone, her furry phone, because remember, this predates everyone having cell phones. There are a handful of cell phones in this movie, but not very many.
Yeah, they would be very rare. Yeah.
So Warner is telling her that they're going to go to this restaurant, and she is like, oh my God, yes, I love that place. I have to go shopping. I'll see you tonight. She opens the card and it says, good luck tonight, Elle and Warner forever. And we cut to the store where she's kind of there with her like girl pals, her two best friends.
Yeah, she's shopping for her engagement dress that she's going to be engaged in. Yeah.
Yeah. So as they're going through the dresses in this store, she's kind of like telling them how she's like, I don't know if he's going to do it. And they're like, well, his grandmother flew out here to go to lunch. So we think she flew a family ring out. That's probably what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, and they do say like she's not going to FedEx a 6-carat diamond, which I mean, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, same. But as they're doing that, the store employees are like, look at these bitches. I'm going to make more money off them. And they try to trick her into both trying on and probably overpaying for a different dress that is last season.
I mean, definitely overpaying because she does take the clearance tag off of it. Like we see that.
Yeah. And Elle, of course, fashion merchandising major. And I think this is one of our really early indications that Elle is smart.
Yeah.
Like regardless of how anyone else treats her or how anyone else perceives her or thinks about her in the world, she is smart. And when she is confident in herself, she's like unstoppable.
Yeah.
So she basically immediately claps back at this lady and is just like, it's last season. I ain't paying extra for it. Thank you. Bye. So they get very excited and kind of jump and dance because she's going to be Mrs. Warner Huntington III.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I've never met the third that I want to hang out with.
Actually, okay. So
Of course, Paige has.
when I was in college, one of the fraternities had, and I won't use his full name because I think he has nuke codes now, but he had like 4 different names and a third after it. And he came from money, but he had been expelled from like multiple schools. And this was like his last option. And the rest of us were like, dude, we tried really hard to get in here. Like this is our first option.
And he was like, what? Like it's hard?
Like it's hard. I just remember that he was just like hopeless with girls. He was just not good at talking to girls.
That hits home with me.
Yeah, he went on a first date with this girl and he was like, yeah, I like scheduled a helicopter tour of the bay. So like we went.
Oh, that does not hit home with me. I don't know what that means at all.
Oh, this is that guy that you talked
told
about
us this story.
during
Yes!
the 50 Shades episode.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, uh-huh.
That was that guy?
That was that guy. And he, I think now works for the Navy doing top secret things because he eventually did also get expelled from the school we were at. So, you know, money can't solve everything, but I think he does have codes.
I thought that the third was just playing into that. Do you guys know the make it, take it, break it rule?
No.
It's like when someone starts a family business, like they start it.
Oh, yeah.
They do very well. It becomes like a thing, right? They pass it off to their kid who saw them build it and they are able to run the business. And then they pass it off to their kid and their kid has never known what hard work is or anything like that because they grew up in privilege and they end up breaking the business or having to sell it off because they don't know how to run it. That is like a known thing in business, the make it, take it, break it rule. So the third generation of a family business ruin it. Sort of like what's happening in In-N-Out right now.
Yeah, she's the third. That's what happened to Zanku Chicken as well.
It's a huge issue in the stained glass community, and I will say no more due to some affidavits that I have signed. Not affidavits, sorry.
I will say when she eventually references Warner's brother is also a third, which is impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
It makes no sense. That's just their shorthand for like, so fucking rich.
Yeah.
So rich, you got numbers in your name. Yes. So we cut to the house. Warner arrives and he's immediately the worst. Like this movie does a great job of like on site. Warner is repugnant. Like it's amazing how well they do.
It's douche city. Sunglasses at night, I can't even. What are you doing?
Go home, Corey Hart. No one wants that right now.
They go to dinner to discuss, and he's like, I want to discuss our future. And she's already using the legal jargon here, which I love, where she's like, and I am fully amenable to that discussion.
Yeah.
Who breaks up over a dinner?
Yes, Mikey, I was literally about to do this. Like, he picks the worst venue and even way to break up. Like,
They haven't ordered.
They haven't gotten their food.
yeah, I feel like you guys are focusing on the wrong part of it, but I get it. It's a nice restaurant. I would want him to buy me food too.
Well, but like, so what are they going to do? Wait for their food and she's going to have to sit there eating it, crying? Like,
Right.
And he's done it in front of other people. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes people will do breakups like this because they hope that the presence of other people will keep your emotions under control. But no, it's just more embarrassing. Like,
Yeah.
And also, if they choose a venue like that, you are under no obligation to not let your emotions out on them.
yeah, no, absolutely.
I don't care if it's in
Well,
public.
he obviously had not had any talks before about how he was thinking about breaking
No,
up.
he's had his valet break up with his girlfriends up until this point.
I like that you said valet
You're
instead
welcome.
of valet.
fucking dorks.
So Elle comes down the stairs and she's gorgeous. I love her dress. I wish I could pull off halter tops like this. I
She
cannot.
looks like a hot pink tiger, which I have painted many times and I am into.
Honestly, you have, and those paintings are amazing.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I think this outfit is the most Barbie she looks the whole time, aside from the very end. But yeah, I love that dress where I'm like, I would not look that good in it. I want it. I still want it.
Same.
Honestly, same.
So they're at dinner. He's breaking up with her. And he basically breaks up with her because he's like, I'm going to law school and I have to be serious. Which, here's what I will say. If he's continuing on with his education and is not going to stay in California and therefore they would be long distance, that's a valid conversation for potentially ending a relationship. However, that is not why he's breaking up with her.
No, it's not. And it seems like, honestly, it's family pressure. It seems like if he was his own man, he would be like, hey, I know you're graduating. I'm graduating too and going to law school. Let's go to Harvard. You know, maybe she wouldn't enroll, but she would come there with them.
Or come there if you want to.
Yeah,
it is
yeah,
your life and your choice. Yeah.
I don't feel like it was family pressure.
You think he was planning it?
Yeah, I feel like he made that decision. He's like, my family, you know, like.
Oh, so he was just passing the buck off onto that? I mean,
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I think that it's clear that Warner uses women for validation and sees them as objects. And so he is seeing women for what they bring to him. And Elle is someone who brings like fun and a good time. But he's like, okay, but now I have to be serious. And so he's not really seeing her as a person or as a partner.
Yeah.
He's just like, we had some hot sex in a hot tub or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that was fun.
4 hours in a hot tub, let alone having sex, I would have passed out. Like, I don't want to spend 4 hours in a hot tub. Yeah.
That sounds horrible.
Imagine boning in a hot tub for 4 hours. I mean, the boning part sounds great, but like in a hot tub, I would have passed out. Yeah.
Imagine boning anywhere for 4 hours.
But imagine how wrinkly your skin would be. So it's just like the aqua creature, like
you're just
touching
You're
you.
just having sex with a California raisin.
That's what I was thinking, Paige. Get out of my brain.
Oh my God, yes.
No, my friends, these fingers are ribbed for your pleasure.
But your dick would also be ribbed, Mikey.
100%.
So he breaks up with her. She cries loudly. To her credit, perfect choice.
Is it because my boobs are too big? That's my favorite line of the whole movie.
On behalf of pretty much every man ever, no, it is not.
I think he should have been like, yeah.
Mikey, you are so petty sometimes, and I'm here for it. I thought I was the pettiest on the podcast, but maybe not.
He kind of is saying that, though. Like, he's kind of saying, like, you're too hot for people to take you seriously when you're with me.
So I think that this movie really does play on the whole, like, you look a certain way, and to a certain extent, you're super into girly stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that, but the world is going to see you as ditzy and dumb because of that, and because of that, I can't be with you, because I think in his mind, he's Kennedy, right? And he needs his Jackie Onassis, right?
You just don't hear a lot of the perspective of like how you're too hot that the world doesn't take you seriously and it's such a hard life.
That's not something I've ever struggled with. You're right, Mikey.
Here's my one defense of this in the movie, because yes, it is ridiculous to be like, you're so hot that must suck. But I will say that it does paint a perfect juxtaposition between him and Emmett, Because the reality is, yeah, the world is going to look at her differently. That is a reality of her life.
Yeah.
But they handle it in two different ways. And Warner handles it by getting rid of her and making it not his problem that she is perceived in a different way. Whereas Emmett is like, I understand that the world perceives you in a different way, but I know you're smart and I support you and I will fight for you to have the opportunities you should have.
Absolutely.
That's the difference.
The thing of like seeing her as a victim, it's complicated. But I will say, like, as a woman who purposefully throughout my entire childhood chose not to present as femme because of all of the negative connotations that come with being feminine, the concept that you are somehow weaker, that you are somehow less than, that by becoming a sexual object in the eyes of men and presenting femininely, that you lose value in terms of your intelligence and your competence. Those are all very real constructs of being a woman in the world. So like, yeah, like we're making fun of this, but also that is a real thing that happens. And like, I feel as an adult, I just started presenting as femme because I felt comfortable owning my own abilities and my own sexuality. So that's a real shitty thing that girls all have to kind of come to terms with as we grow up.
And I feel like she does a good job of just fucking owning who she is. And
Absolutely.
I feel like that is a valuable lesson for, I had a lot of people in my life when I was in high school that were just like, you don't really want to fit in. You really want to be yourself. And then people will not look up to you, but they'll like appreciate you more and like you more because they get to see the real you and like just lean into what makes you unique. And that is going to make you fun to be around and all that stuff. So like that was a lesson I was able to learn early because I had people in my life that like were reinforcing that. And that's something I'm very, very grateful for. It's very different for a white teenager, like male teenager, than it is for any other person. Like it's, I had the easiest upbringing as far as like gender and race is concerned. Right. But like that's something that was very easy for me to lean into. And I feel like it was great that I was able to do that. And I realized that not everyone is able to do that. But I feel like if you lean into what makes you unique, it's going to make your life much, much better.
Yeah, definitely.
The thing that I love is that at no point in her mind, even when she is trying to plot, like, how do I get Warner back? It never occurs to her to change who she is and her general person, as much as it's just like, oh, I just need to achieve this or that.
Yeah.
But I am not the problem, which...
Pros and cons. Because sometimes we are the problem.
Yes. Yeah.
I have been the problem.
I've been the problem.
Yeah.
I've definitely been the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, like, for me, I kind of love the idea of, like, this was something that I kind of had to struggle with when I was younger of, like, I'm fat, I'm this or that, no one's going to like me. And I really, had a much better life when I was finally just like, I am me.
Yeah.
This is me. I'm cool. People should want to be with me because I have a lot of cool things going on. And then that opened doors and it was incredibly freeing. And I think one of the cool things about Elle is there's no point in the movie where she has to have that conversation with herself, where she's like, I'm not good enough. It's a question of, you don't think I'm good enough, and I know that I can be. And that I love through this entire movie. Absolutely problematic things in this movie. But as a mission statement, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think owning what you are, like what you're into, what you like, how you look, all that stuff gives you confidence, and confidence is just sexy, right? And I think, and you've said this before, Paige, and I know that it's something you talk about a lot, but like, there's someone out there who's into what you are, and you'll find those people. And then I just feel like people who tie up their value in like their looks or their funniness or their ability to say words correctly, like that is, I feel like that's like a pitfall.
People should like me because I can say Pattinson.
Oh, Mikey, you're fucked. But yeah, exactly. Like owning who you are is going to help you. This is a super long like sidebar about confidence, but yeah.
I do think that like confidence plays such a huge role in this movie. It's important to talk about.
Yeah, and I do love that her first act that when she got to Harvard was not to dye her hair. Like she dresses the same. She looks the same. Like she's just owning who she is at Harvard.
She is just Elle at law school.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, this film definitely does like a fish out of water. Like that's the thing that we're seeing. And it's so visible in all of the fashion choices and the difference between her and literally every other person at Harvard.
Yeah.
That I think, you get that sense like, yeah, this is just her, man.
Yeah.
This is just what's up.
One of the things that I really love is when she's at Harvard at the orientation thing where they're all like in the quad and they're like sitting down talking about where they've come from. And all these people are like huge IQs, hugely accomplished in the world of academia, right? And she's like, we never get a shot of her that looks like, oh God, maybe I don't belong here. She's just like, yo, I went to Southern California
I was a Zeta
school.
Landa sweetheart.
And she's like, she loves it. She's like, yeah, what I have accomplished is on par with what you guys have accomplished.
Which that's one of those places where I'm like, it is not. but
I'm just talking about the confidence specifically.
Yeah,
right?
I'm glad that you are outgoing.
Absolutely. Own who you are. We probably should get back into the movie.
Yeah, we should get back to the movie. So he breaks up with her at dinner and says that it's bad salad. And as they leave the restaurant, you can just hear someone go, well, I'm definitely not having the salad.
The only salad that has ever made me cry is as a child, I found a dead fly in my salad and my parents still made me eat it because they're like,
eat the fly?
No, they're like, take the fly out and just eat the rest of it. But I was like, I don't wanna.
Oh, Midwesterners are too polite.
Yeah.
I'd have been like, make me a new fucking salad. Wait, were you at home or were you at a restaurant?
We were at a restaurant and I was a child.
I thought so. Yeah. I'd be like, make me a new fucking salad. What are we doing right now?
Yeah. Just scooch that fly over.
Yeah.
That's a spot on impression of my parents.
I do love that when Reese leaves the restaurant, he goes, yeah, just pull the car around or whatever. He's like trying to cover for the fact that she's like walking out or whatever. I don't know. He's such a douche.
Yeah. And then she tries to walk home and he's like following her, being like, just get in the car. Like, just let me drive you home at least. This is the one conversation where I feel like it toes the line of making her unlikable, where she's like, what, because your family won't like me? I'm not white trash. I grew up in Bel Air across from Aaron Spelling.
Yeah, she's like, I'm rich as shit too.
Hey, I'm rich as shit, you fucking asshole. Yeah.
Honestly, at the very beginning of this movie, I did not like her very much. And it was largely because of this scene. I was like, oh yeah, let me feel sad for this rich, beautiful white woman. But as it goes on, I sort of, you sort of like fall in love with her a little bit. You're like you're on board for it.
In part also because I think later on in the movie, what we will find out is everything she achieves, she works and achieves on her own merits.
Yeah. I also have like a lot of really shitty views on money, like, and people with money. So like immediately when someone's rich in a movie, I'm like, oh, they're a bad person. Like I just have that assumption because we're like fully living out late stage capitalism and that's normally how that goes. But in this movie, you see her like really befriend someone who is of a very different social class than she is and help her with some stuff in her life and gain confidence and all that stuff. And I really like those scenes.
Like a white savior.
Well, no, because the person is also white. It's Jennifer Coolidge, who I refer to as the MILF from American Pie, but she is like she either owns the nail salon or works at the nail salon.
She just works there, I think.
Yeah, she really helps her like find herself and find a new man, and like that. I really like that part of the movie.
I also think it's interesting that when we get to Paulette, we can examine it more. She dresses insane. Like she also stands out in the movie just as someone who is also wearing like a crazy colored fur coat and whatever.
Paulette is of an era. And what's interesting about her is that she is like coded in the last year that she was really hot. And then she just kept
dressing that way.
Dressing that way.
Yeah.
Which you see sometimes.
So she gets home, or rather he gets her to get in the car by telling her she'll ruin her shoes, which like, those are expensive shoes. It's not that far of a drive. It's fine. But we cut to a week later, we find out.
Yeah.
Although it doesn't tell you, you kind of have to wait for the lines for them to tell you. And she is at the sorority house watching Days of Our Lives, eating a like family size box of like Russell Stover fudge chocolates.
Yeah.
Well, she's taking a bite and putting them back and taking another bite and putting them back.
And then putting them back.
Yeah. Which you sort of had to do with those because they were all different flavors, but they don't tell you really what they are. And you do see her.
Once you commit, you got to finish that chocolate.
And Mikey is someone who is known for committing. But I do like that she does bite into one and then she's like, oh, this is what I like. And then she eats the rest of it. I thought that was funny. Yeah.
It's super funny. My favorite is as the guy on Days of Our Lives is like, no, I love you. And she just goes, liar! And launches
all the
chocolates at the
Love
television.
it so much.
Yeah.
But her sisters come in and they're like, hey, you've been in here for like a week. We need to go outside and re-enter society with they have juices from a juice bar.
Yep. These are good friends.
These are friends that are like, self-care, let's do it. And they basically are going to go get mani-pedis, although they do talk about her within earshot at that mani-pedi place. Because this is where we find out they're like, she ate like 8 grilled cheese sandwiches, just stuffed them in her mouth all at once. And she hasn't conditioned her hair in like a week. Her nails are full on chipped. But this is also where we find out one of her sorority sisters speaks Vietnamese.
Just like randomly.
Can I tell you, in not just in the sorority, but in my life living in Southern California, I have met many a woman who learns strategic phrases in Vietnamese for nail salons.
I was once hit on during a pedi by my Vietnamese nail person.
Nice.
You must have some great toes.
I know, right? That would never happen to me, Mikey.
What them feet
Yeah, Todd,
do.
damn.
Did you say Todd damn? Because I love
Yeah,
that.
I did.
They're like normal feet. I mean, like they're pretty clean.
Mikey, if someone is looking at feet every day and then they hit on you, those must be excellent feet. You could sell pics. Like,
I'm more
Yeah,
than
dude.
just my toes, okay?
okay, I'm sorry.
Mikey is up here, ladies.
Yeah.
Mikey's more than just toes and bulges.
Oh my God.
Because my toes are too big.
You should see the ends of his shoes, guys. That's the bulge we've been talking about this whole time. Spoiler alert.
He has to wear steel-toed boots to protect them.
I can do that. The toe pinch. That toe pinch is pretty powerful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. He only brings the toes out when he's got to teach lessons, ladies.
I'm sorry. I'm just picturing Jamie Dornan like
Yep.
tying somebody up to a bed and then just like taking a shoe off. Just be like, pleasure and pain.
I do like the idea that like instead of dick neck, we get like a little shot of like the toes coming out of the sock, and then it cuts away.
I'll never understand the foot thing.
Me
like
either.
ever.
Me either. But I don't have good feet, so I get it.
She's fine, officer. She fell into that shoe rack.
Paige stood up and has walked away. She has walked away from the Zoom call.
Paige had to take a lap for that bit.
Oh,
Damn.
fucking shoe rack. God damn. So at the nail salon, she finds I think it's a People magazine. She's looking at the society pages, which is not as much of a thing anymore. Like you'd occasionally see it.
The weirdest thing too is that magazine looks like it's from like 1965.
Yes.
Like it doesn't look like a current issue.
Yeah. Well, and so she's reading about Warner's brother
Yeah.
getting engaged to a Vanderbilt.
Yes.
So he's marrying into a powerful family, and she turns to the woman sitting at the drying station next to her on the couch and is just like, this is what I have to become to get him back. And this is, while horribly body shaming,
Yeah.
makes me laugh every time just because it's so crass. Like
Yeah.
it's incredibly mean, but it's like, this is what I have to become. Practically deformed. And she looks fine. She got them teeth though.
Yeah, I was gonna say Mikey would be into this Vanderbilt because she is full on horse teeth in it.
Yeah. Like they are going to just sprinkle sugar cubes and carrots down the aisle at her wedding.
This is like a weird aside. Have any of you ever had someone bring up that they had like a royal ancestor and you're like, oh, how the mighty have fallen? Like, have you ever had that
And yet
happen?
now you work at Kinko's. How's that going for you?
But I ruled this Kinko's.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know, but I have a famous like Scottish 1800s foot. I don't know if you know, but you are talking to Sandy the Duke McMahon's great granddaughter. So
Me and my brother like we have really good like leg muscles like naturally, and we're like, man, our ancestors must have like done some real fucking hard labor.
Yeah.
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 we got them peasant calves.
Hell yeah, dude.
My great grandfather was so rich that my grandmother had a bodyguard growing up in the 20s.
Oh my God.
And she never worked a day in her life and died almost penniless. So like that's where the money stopped in my family, was with my grandma, because she was the break it generation.
No, I see where your hatred comes from. You got so close.
That bitch didn't leave me anything.
I never knew it. Like, I didn't know that she was rich as shit when she was growing up until like she had passed away and I was a fully adult, because my dad was telling me stories about her childhood.
I had a great uncle give millions of dollars to a university, and I was like, oh, cool.
Do you want to pay for me to go to one of those? No? Okay.
I went to that university and still paid money.
Oh my God.
Do you still have student
Mikey.
loans, Mikey?
100%.
So we cut to Elle in her parents' backyard, and she's basically telling her dad, like, Daddy, I want to go to law school.
She's like in the pool though, and he's just out there like with his wife and her mom, and with himself with a martini, which I loved.
Can I just say that at the very end of the movie, they're at her graduation, and he just raises a martini as well.
Where did he get that?
Where did he get that? And where are they sitting? Because we see the whole room and it looks like it's just graduates. And then it just cuts to that shot of them like, aha. And then there's like nowhere for them to be sitting, especially with a martini.
They're force ghosts. Come on.
Oh my God.
Hayden Christensen's next to them, just like angrily clapping. So he basically is just like, no, law school is for boring, ugly people. It's just a hilarious response. And then her mom is like, you were first runner-up at the Miss Hawaiian Tropics competition. Why would you want to throw all that away?
Which is nuts. Like, oh man.
I mean, this is what's so funny is like, we know it's humorous, but it is also just very much a manufactured obstacle, because no parent ever would be like, you don't want to go to law school. They'd be like, oh my God, my kid's going to earn her own money. Thank fucking God. Like, especially...
After we pay down these school loans.
Yeah, I mean, especially after she has a fashion merchandising degree and she, is in a sorority and she's like in beauty pageants. It's like, oh, she's going to go get a real job. This sounds fucking great. Like, no parent ever would
Maybe
be
we won't have to marry her off after all.
Harvard Law School, you piece of shit.
Are you sure you don't want to join a convent? Yeah.
Her parents react to her going to Harvard Law School the way my parents reacted to me saying I wanted to be an art major. Like, she just they're like, are you sure though?
Do you want to throw your life away on the law?
That's how my parents reacted. I was like, I'm gonna major in psych.
Do your parents didn't want you to major in psych, Mikey?
Oh yeah, both of my parents thought I would never like have a job.
And now you run the entire crisis team for all of Nashville. That's bonkers to me.
Yeah, my friends are also surprised. I did not do well in college.
What? Did your parents think that you wouldn't be able to get a job because your dad doesn't believe in therapy?
No, I think it was at that point they're like, are you really gonna go to grad school? Because I struggled in school all the way until college.
Oh, they just doubted your ability to go to grad school. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, there are tons of therapists.
Yeah.
I think it's very funny that their dad reacts like, oh my God, you want to work for a living?
Yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we cut to her talking to her college counselor, basically finding out like, what are the requirements that I need to have to apply to Harvard for law school? And the counselor's just like, what? Like, you majored in fashion merchandising. Although somebody put in the Facebook group today, they're like, you have a better chance of getting into Harvard with a degree like that because it's diverse.
Yeah.
Well, they sort of play into that a little bit when they're the old white dudes, the arbiters of who gets into Harvard. They bring that up.
Yeah.
For a while when I was in art school, I thought that I would want to get an art degree and then go to medical school because my parents were continuing to put pressure on me.
Oh, wow.
When I talked to people about it, they were like, well, as long as you take the prerequisites and as long as you can pass the MCAT, like, you're fine. Like, because you are an artist and because you have this like different type of thinking, you might actually be able to get in better because you'll stand out. So that's might be true.
Yeah. So she basically, she kind of like balks at it initially, but then she gives her the information she needs. And she's like, okay, so you'll need recommendations from all your professors. You'll need a good admissions essay, and you need at least a 175 on the LSATs. Now, in fun facts, I do have some more information about LSAT scoring that we'll talk about when we get there. But so at this point, Elle is like, cool, I can do it. And then she just works hard and does it, which I kind of love.
Yeah.
She studies really hard. I love when like the guys, the party scene, like the montage of her studying. And
I mean, it is really quick. Like, it's a quick montage, but I think they do that to serve the story. Like, it does show a passage of time there where she is like studying super hard.
Yeah, because they could have just given her a pair of glasses to show the passage of time. Yeah. And this is one of the first places where we see her sisters supporting her even though they don't understand, which I love, where they're like, I don't get it, but we're here for you because we love you.
yes.
And this is where she's like, I'm going to Harvard. And they're like on a vacation, let's all go. And she's like, no, I'm going to get into Harvard Law School. I've got the highest GPA here. I'm going to do it. And this is when one of her sisters gives her lucky scrunchie because it helped her pass Spanish. And the other sister's like, you passed Spanish because you gave him a lap dance. And she just goes, yeah.
Luckily.
And it is one of my favorite lines in the movie. Problematic about, sleeping with students and shit, but like,
I mean, it could have been that they slept together, but it wasn't. It was at least just a lap dance.
It was the lap dance.
It's just the lap dance, you guys.
Well, that was Spanish 1. I mean, I think she's got to take at least for Spanish 2.
It's a Uno lap dance.
Uno lap dance per semester.
Mikey also had to give a lap dance to pass Spanish.
Hell yeah. Senorita Smith. Thank you. Gracias.
Senorita Smith. If you take French, as I did in California, the only thing it enables you to do is be rude in 2 languages. So we get to Elle's video essay, which I think is really interesting that she does a video essay, because that's not necessarily the requirement. It's just her being great at marketing herself.
Oh,
for
man,
sure.
I read this as someone who is super dyslexic like I am. I suck with the written word. I can't spell for shit. I'm all over the place. I can't tell you what an adverb or adjective or noun is. Like, I fucking suck with the written word. But I can make some video content. Like, while they're showing that, and they're showing that slow push over the pool into the hot tub, I was like, where did they get a crane to shoot this?
Yeah.
Well, we find out later that her admissions essay was directed by a Coppola. We don't know which one.
Yeah. But I mean, like, that's just the way I would prefer to do it if that was an option. That wasn't an option for me when I went to college, but I would have much preferred that, because I can do that shit for sure.
Yeah.
You kidding? Me in a hot tub with a bikini on?
Forget about it. I'm getting into Stanford.
Wait, isn't that where they were gonna shoot this and then they didn't?
That's where the original story takes place. I'll talk about it in fun facts, because this is based on a real story. This is based on a true story. Yeah.
What? You just blew my fucking mind.
Is it based off a book?
Yes, it's based off a book, an autobiography that a woman wrote.
What?
And I don't want to spoil it because I have some fun facts about the book.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Let's table it.
Table. So, Elwood's video essay. This is where she has video of her as a president discussing the 2-ply toilet paper topic. She's studying instead of partying.
Yeah.
This is I can recall hundreds of important details at the drop of a hat. Do you remember what happened on Days of Our Lives yesterday? And this is also where we get the quintessential, like, I use legal jargon in everyday life. Somebody slaps her ass and she just goes, I object. Classic. So we cut to her taking the LSAT, and she's taken like sample tests and is practicing. But she takes it for real, and they get the results back, and she has a 179, which means she's got a high enough thing to qualify to go to Harvard.
Yeah, she's 4 points over what the bottom was, right?
Well, the minimum that Harvard would accept. We'll talk about the scoring in fun facts and how amazing this score is, basically.
Yeah, but she worked hard for it, and she's clearly a smart person. So
yeah. So we cut to the admissions board reviewing her application. And this is where they're like, well, she's got a 4.0. She has a 179. We've never had a fashion major before. And she's got a ton of extracurriculars. Welcome to Harvard. Which for me is basically like, she does get into Harvard on her own merits.
Well, there is some
she doesn't, and that's like the biggest thing that bothers me about this movie.
There's an implication of sexism and her getting in because she's hot, kind of, which, like, yes, it is a boardroom full of stuffy old dudes, and
old
yes,
white
she's
men.
in a bikini.
Yeah.
But also, like, yeah, good for her, whatever. I don't know.
Well, and I'm kind of like, yes, there is that, but also if you were to hold her application up next to anyone else's, she has met the same requirements.
Heck yeah.
You know?
And they should have shown that in the movie. That's like my only complaint with this movie.
No, I agree.
Because she did work her ass off to go to Harvard, and then she skates in because she's hot. And that seems dumb to me that they actually did that from a story standpoint. They should have had the conversation of, do we want someone like this in here? And someone being like, I mean, she did get what is required to be here.
Yeah.
And it would be sort of a...
Oh, in my mind, it was like they were only looking at the applications of the people who had met all the requirements and was like, this one stand out because of this, this, and this. Like, she sent a video and all this crap.
I mean, that's true because there's no way they'd be watching every single application. So by the time she's gotten to this point, that means that on paper, she has made it through a couple rounds anyway.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. But they may also be just passing that video around because it's a beautiful girl in a bikini talking about wanting to go to Harvard. So, like, we don't have enough context to know that, right?
Yeah.
So it could be read either way. And I just don't like that there isn't she worked hard and she does qualify.
Right. So we cut to she and Bruiser and her convertible and a moving truck make their way to Harvard, where she moves into the dorms. She does have her own room, thankfully, I guess, because she's got like 2 rooms full of stuff.
I mean, she brought her elliptical with her, so...
She brought her elliptical.
Is it normal to have dorms for grad school? I didn't.
Yeah.
At my campus, we did have campus housing options for grad school, but it was different than the dorms. They were more like apartments.
Okay.
So maybe that sort of checks out because she might have like a on-campus apartment type deal, right?
Yeah. Well, she's definitely in a housing hall. Like Harvard definitely has halls where you could live.
Yeah, it's a super old university, so that would not surprise me either. Like, I just don't know enough to know, but like, this did not bother me really.
Yeah. Like when I was watching this with my dad last night, he's like, who gets their own room? And I was like, people actually had their own room when I was in college. You just paid extra for it.
Yes.
And so you could choose to have your own room regardless. So it didn't super bother me that she, had chosen campus housing and has her own room. I do think it's big even for that, but, whatever.
It's part of the story to keep her in that world, so that everyone she's interacting with
is there.
Is college, yeah.
So we cut to her at what is essentially like an orientation desk. She's getting her packets, her schedule, her book list, and everything. And she's basically like, hey, where's the social events calendar? And the guy's like, what's wrong with, like, it's Harvard Law School. There's no social events.
Which is crazy. I know someone who went to Harvard Law School and we talked about events that they did all the time. Like, that's a thing.
Your cohorts have events. They want the grad students to be friends with each other because of, magnitude of mental health problems.
Yeah. Harvard has a history of clubs.
Yes.
Like there's on-campus clubs. And that actually factors into the alternate ending of this movie that we'll talk about in fun facts.
Alternate ending.
There's an alternate ending. Yeah. Anyway, so she also asks if Warner's checked in, and the guy is like, no, you should check with the cruise director on the Lido deck. Basically, again, implying like, you're not taking this seriously.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was a funny joke.
It is a funny joke. Yeah.
If I was in charge of talking to people who were new to school, I'd be like, check with your cruise director. Next.
Yeah.
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Mikey, 100%. That's like the easiest thing for me to see for you. Like, yeah, you would absolutely be snarky. Yeah. That's why I love you.
We cut to on the lawn. She's going around like an orientation circle. And this is where we meet a lot of her other classmates that we're going to interact with the whole time.
Yeah.
Where we meet David, who majored in Russian Lit, has a PhD in biochem, and spent the last few years deworming orphans in Somalia. And then we meet Enid Wexler, who has a PhD in women's studies from Berkeley.
Yeah.
And had organized like a march for lesbians against drunk driving.
Which I thought it was really funny that acronym spelled out LAD. I don't know why that made me laugh so much.
Well, I also love that she majored in women's studies with her emphasis on the history of combat.
Yeah.
Like in women's studies, that's like such a small like percentage of like women in combat. Like it's really funny.
And then we get to Aaron Mitchell, who had graduated from Princeton, and he has a 185 IQ, which is like so insanely high that you could not function.
Yeah,
basically.
That would be debilitating.
Debilitatingly high IQ. And he says, it's been suggested that Stephen Hawking plagiarized his Brief History of Time from my 4th grade paper.
Which I have known people like that, like where they're so smart, they're annoying about it, and you're like, I still don't want to be your friend. Like, please, like, don't be a dick about it.
I got my IQ score. I don't like to talk about it because it's like then I just feel like a failure.
Wait. Why? Well, first of all, I will say that IQs are not a one-to-one measure of intelligence. They shouldn't be used that way. They are testing very specific types of intelligence.
Yeah.
That said, what'd you get?
Well, okay. So in grad school, when I was in grad school, they had other like PhD students learning how to do psychological testing or whatever. So they needed to practice. And so I made a high score. And then except for like number sequence memorization, I was
Yeah. That's the one I always fail into.
I was like deficit to the point where she had to like go talk to the professor to make sure like yeah.
That's really funny though.
And I was like, maybe it's because of my ADHD or whatever. I got 149, which I thought was pretty good.
That is really good.
It is good.
I've scored anywhere from 136 to 156, but anything above 130 is considered like crazy good. But I do have ADHD, so like I scored super high and can't remember to do laundry.
Yeah,
like it's not
you.
like what I am bad at math. I can
Same.
barely balance a checkbook,
Yeah.
but I have a crazy high score. So like it is not a true indicator of any sort of intelligence for sure.
I would not be surprised if all of us had similar issues because we probably all have high IQs but ADHD, which is how we ended up where we are in life. Like
Podcasting.
Yeah, exactly. Like
That's kind of the podcasters thing. Like, do you have ADHD, possibly a trauma, and a high IQ? Like, come hang out. Let's chill.
Do you have a face for radio and you're too smart for your own good?
Yeah, I love you guys.
I know you guys are the best. Honestly, you guys are a close second to me.
We're in the top 3.
I work with someone and her son has ADHD, and she's like, "You give me hope that my son could be somewhat successful." And I was like, "Thanks."
Yeah.
That's also not a very nice comment.
No, she was being sincere. I was making a joke out of it, but she was like, because I mean, I struggle a lot with stuff at work, and they're like, you know, my other coworker was like, "Yeah, but Michael could do it," and like, but like, you know, he struggles with this and this, but he's doing it.
Yeah, he
like,
sucks at PowerPoint, but he can do it. So like,
That's my favorite thing that you're bad at is PowerPoint.
Wait, how are you bad at PowerPoint?
Thank you.
I don't know. Ask the consultant who gave me the book Slideology.
I don't even understand. You just press buttons and you make the pictures.
She was
I don't get it.
She was like, your graphs are just like not great. This section of the book is on graphs, and like you should. I was like, oh, thanks. This is a really thoughtful gift. And I was like,
Well, I mean, you do present on statistics a lot, so that makes sense.
yeah, but I don't memorize that stuff or believe in it. Math is so subjective.
Fucking math, right?
the one thing I know about math is it's not.
Yeah, I would say of all the studies, least subjective.
When I saw my score, I was like, no, it's not. Because I don't see myself as a particularly smart person.
What'd you score, though?
It was above 130, below 140 the first time I took it, and then it was higher the next time I took it. But I also don't think I'm that smart.
I second that.
Immediately when I saw my score, I thought, oh, these are fucking bullshit. Like, there's no way that this is an indicator of intelligence.
Todd, no, it is an indicator of your like low self-esteem.
I think here's the thing. I never think I'm that smart until someone does something that's so dumb. I'm like, I don't even know how you got here. Like
100%. Like my favorite joke that George Carlin makes is like, think how dumb the average intelligent person is, and like half of people are dumber than that person.
Yeah, that is true, because I used to work in retail, and I will never forget the time a lady returned a Christmas towel, like a Christmas themed towel. And she was like, it's backwards. And I was like, what? She's like, it says Christmas backwards. And I realized she was holding it up to me with the I'm looking at the logo on the towel and it's forwards. And I'm realizing that she was just looking at the back of the towel.
Did you turn it around?
Yes. And I was like, ma'am, I just turned it. And she was like, well, I'd still like to return.
Oh,
well,
my
at
God,
that point,
Paige.
she made the trip. You know what I'm saying?
She made the
my
trip.
God.
Honestly, she committed to the bit. Like, I would have returned it. Yeah.
Yeah.
She could have been like, I was looking for a double-sided towel, and this is a one-sided Christmas towel.
This is a one-sided backwards Christmas towel. And then like that same day, within like a day or two, I had 2 different people return popsicle molds because they didn't realize that they had to freeze them.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, and I remember saying to one of them, how did you think popsicles were going to happen? And they just looked at me like I was the crazy one. And I was like, whew, all right.
Yeah, that's when I'm like, okay, maybe I am kind of smart.
And I'm over here like, hey, this towel's backwards.
Anyway, so she runs into Warner in the hallway. And this is where we get the like, you got into law school? What, like it's hard?
Yeah.
And tells him to meet her on the benches after her class. So she goes to her first class where the professor is strict and she didn't know that there was an assignment before the first class. And so they remove her from class at the recommendation of who we will find out is Warner's new fiance.
Yeah.
So we cut outside and she has kind of like stomped her way out and sits on the bench. And this is the first place we meet Emmett, who's Luke Wilson, who's basically like, yeah, that professor's tough. Keep an eye out for this. Who else do you have? Here are the other things you should look out for.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, thank you. And then Warner approaches her. And this is where he introduces Vivian. So it's implied that they have only been apart for like 3 months max.
Yeah, the summer.
And he's
Yeah.
gotten engaged.
Yeah.
And we do find out that I guess they were high school boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah, it's still really rushing into something. It's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Well, and we find out that he calls her the same like pet name. Like he calls her Pooh Bear, which is like, that was our thing, but it's not. It's a very generic nickname.
Yeah.
And then Vivian is like, oh, you're famous at our club, which means that they were like telling stories and making fun of her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is gross and frustrating.
Really mean.
It's super mean. So she's upset, understandably. So she finds a local nail place, causes like a 3-car pileup getting
Yup.
there.
Sees no consequences for it.
No,
Nope.
and it's just like, I'm not going to stop and give anyone my information. But she goes in and here comes Jennifer Coolidge to steal the show.
Yeah.
And so she's getting her nails done. She's telling her the whole thing. And then Paulette, Jennifer Coolidge, is like, yeah, I was with my guy for 8 years and then he met someone else. And I didn't even get to throw my dog a birthday.
It's the saddest thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's the saddest thing ever. What does she have that you don't have? 3 tits? Which I was like, Total Recall. We should watch Total Recall.
We should watch Tittle Recall. It's Total Recall.
Tittle Recall. But just as she's saying this, the UPS guy comes in. She spills everything. It's obvious that she has like a crush on him.
Oh, yeah.
And the one thing that I do like that she does, and then she immediately invalidates it, which is a little frustrating, but she turns to her and is like, so is Warner really the one? Like, is it worth fighting for this, basically?
And we find out later, it absolutely is not worth it.
It absolutely is not worth it. But then instead of having her like critically look at it, she's just like, well, if you can't hold on to a man, there's no hope for the rest of us. Steal him back. And you're like, this is terrible advice. Like,
Very
this
bad
is-
advice.
Yeah.
So we cut to Callahan's class, which is Victor Garber, and he's basically giving a speech of like, I have a summer internship. If you want to apply, your resumes are going to be due at this time. Let the bloodbath begin, and you'll be competing for, placement in my class. So he starts asking questions about essentially like the types of crimes you could be defending somebody against. And she basically is like, oh, I'd rather have an innocent client. And he's like, yeah, okay, good fucking luck. And then Vivian answers, and then she changes her answer to be like, no, I want the harder one because I'm up for a challenge. And then like stares her down,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous. And we cut to her sitting out on the lawn while Warner's playing football. And the thing that struck me about it this time is that she's got a blanket, a lawn chair, a bed for Bruiser, a cooler, and like a sun thing. And I'm like, she would have had to carry all of that out.
So annoying. So heavy.
She had to take 4 trips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like she would have started that morning to set it up. And I'm like, what is she doing? She's like, don't worry, they're going to play football here in like an hour.
I know what I'm doing. It's called thirst traps. I'm setting one.
And also fall in Massachusetts.
Cold.
Pretty cold.
That's why she had a blanket. Yeah, that's why she brought that little blanket
Yeah,
thing.
but like she still is wearing a bikini top.
That's the thirst trap part.
Your tits would be so cold.
Your tits are going to freeze and crack off the front of your torso. It's not just nipply, it's like tit loss level.
Yeah.
Colder than a witch's teat.
I mean, I think she looks fine.
Yeah, sure. So she brings muffins to try and join their study group. And Vivian's like, no, bye.
Yeah.
Like there's no room.
Which I kind of get.
Also very weird to try to join the study group of your ex and his new fiance.
Yeah.
That's really uncomfortable.
Well, and there's portions of this when she's really still trying to chase Warner down that you're just like, ooh.
Girl, don't.
Yeah.
Just let him go.
Girl,
He
no.
fucking sucks.
Let him be like the McRib and go on into the night. Like just
I had a McRib last week.
Jake said to me the other day, he's like, what if the McRib was the only food left on the planet? And I'd be like, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to starve to death.
Was it good, Mikey? Did you like it?
Yeah, I always like a good McRib.
I'm always scared of the McRib because, like, what is it?
Who the fuck cares? Tastes good.
Yeah, that's what scares me.
Think
Like,
smaller, more legs.
I just pretend they're little piglets that got murdered.
Why would you say that?
They were cloned pigs. They weren't real pigs.
why do you think cloned pigs aren't real?
Clones don't have souls. The Pope said that or whatever.
No, he didn't.
Mikey, if you clone a baby, you still can't kill that baby. Like,
I don't
what
think
are you
we're there
talking
yet
about?
in the law. The law has not caught up to this.
So wait, are you suggesting that we clone babies for food, Mikey?
Whoa.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
If you clone yourself, you can then eat that baby. Auto cannibalism.
Is that called eating yourself out?
Only if you go to a restaurant and have them prepare you for you.
Yeah.
Then that's eating yourself out. Otherwise, you're eating yourself in.
I disagree because your clone could have completely different life experiences, choices, thoughts, and memories than you.
Yeah, it
Yes.
will because it'll be in a cage in my basement.
Isn't this the plot of Shutter Island, or is that a different movie?
No, you're thinking of the movie The Island.
The Island,
with
yeah.
Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
Yeah, although they aren't eating them, they're just harvesting their organs.
Yeah, it's fucked up. That's what Mikey's trying to do for meat.
Yeah, second harvest.
Well, you guys only bring problems. I'm bringing solutions.
No, you're bringing Soylent Green.
Anyway, I don't care what it's made of. It tastes good.
Clearly.
Ignorance is bliss.
Pignorance, Mikey.
So she walks away from the study group and Enid makes fun of her. And she basically turns to her and is like, hey, if you had come to a sorority party, I would have at least been nice to you. Like,
Yeah.
like that's the least I could
Yeah.
do is be nice to you.
Like, you're making fun of me just because you think I'm dumb, and that's not really nice or fair.
Well, she does clap back pretty good, though.
Well, she doubles down and says before, and this is in reference to like, you would have been nice to me at a party, but then after the party, you would have voted against me and called me a slur behind my back. And I do like that Elle just says, I don't use that word.
Yeah, she's like, I never would say that.
I would never say that.
Yeah.
But then what she does do is she says, you must have heard it from Vivian, which
Yeah,
like Vivian
which-
has not said this word ever.
Vivian has not said this word that we see. So yeah.
You're just accusing someone else of using a slur like
Yeah.
you don't even know. Like, that's pretty messed up. Just
Yeah.
leave her out of it.
So we cut to, she goes back to her room. She calls her sisters. We find out that her sorority sisters are getting married and one of them got bangs, equal importance. And
My hair's so now.
And so now, and as she's on the phone with them, she overhears somebody talking about a party in the hallway and goes out to the hallway to be like, is somebody actually having a party? And it is Vivian, who
Yeah.
then tells her it's a costume party and gives her the address.
And Bruiser barks.
Bruiser growls. He's like, no.
Because Bruiser knows better.
Yeah. he
Bruiser knows best.
Yes.
Because his dog ears, he's listening. He knows it's not a costume party.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So she shows up to the costume party, which is clearly not a costume party.
No. And she's dressed sort of like a Playboy bunny, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, actually really cute though.
Yeah, I mean, she's
Yeah.
making it work.
She is making it work. And she does the exact right thing, which is, no, I am going to this party in this costume.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
own it. And Vivian laughs at her and she claps back and is just like, thanks for inviting me. But the next time you dress like a frigid bitch, try not to look so constipated.
Yeah.
Which is still mean, but at the same time, she's been set up for failure. So I understand.
Yeah, they've sabotaged this. Yeah.
Yeah. And she ends up talking to Warner. And Warner is very handsy in this scene, which, like, we already know he's gross, but to me, it was an added level of gross.
Well, my favorite part is that when she walks up, Warner is talking to Enid Wexler, who is explaining why we should change the term semester to ovester
Ovester.
to make it more feminine. And when she walks up, he goes, well, don't you look like a walking felony? And Enid's face is so upset.
Yes. She's just like, the quote that comes to mind for me is Trixie Mattel saying, I can't handle the straights anymore. I've had it with the straights and the Christians. And then just her face in that moment, I was just like, no, she's right.
I do love Trixie Mattel.
The bulk of my non-femme presenting friends are gay men. And so oftentimes I will get texted a photo of something seemingly appalling that straight people have done, just with the caption of, are the straights okay? And then I'll just text back with, no, we've never been okay.
Never. We don't communicate in relationships. We don't express our needs. We just follow these dumb rules that someone said were cool. Like, we're not okay.
We got to break the rules.
Yeah.
Clone ourselves and eat them.
Those are not the rules I'm super interested in breaking, Mikey.
No. Clone yourself. Imprint on yourself. Become a werewolf.
That just sounds like masturbation with more steps.
Anyway, so she's talking to Warner. And she's like, I can't imagine doing all this work and Callahan's internship next year. It's going to be really, really tough. And he's like, you'll never get that internship. You're not smart enough, sweetie. And like he says, you're not smart enough, sweetie.
He's such a dick.
My favorite is she claps back and is like, am I on fucking glue or did we not get into the same law school? Like,
I love how she says, am I on glue?
Am I on glue?
Like,
yeah. We took the same LSATs. We have the same classes. And at this point, this is when she says like, I'm never going to be enough for you, and just stomps out to take over the rest of the movie and the future. Just like,
yes.
Bye. Because this is the moment at which she's just like, no, you know what? Fuck him. But I am good at this and I am going to succeed regardless.
Yeah, she at this point has decided to be the best at Harvard Law School out of straight up spite. And I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, spite success is my favorite success.
Oh, it's the best kind of success. Because it's the kind of success where you can look back at that ex and be like, I'm this because you're stupid.
Yeah.
You guys should really not narrow your spite success to just exes. It's just anyone that makes you angry.
Yeah, you can spite anyone.
Yeah.
Do you know how long I've coasted on spite from an angry letter I got from my college back in college? So fucking far. Like, you have no idea.
There have been people in my past that have said some really unkind things to me about my artistic abilities, including former art teachers and people I went to college with who said things like, when I applied to work where they worked, said, what are you going to do here? Clean my brushes? So
Really?
I mean, sick burn, but also terrible.
yeah, it's fucked. It was like such a fucked up thing to say. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to pay off my student loans with this. Like, go fuck yourself.
That's insane. Your art's awesome. Like I
good at it.
commissioned something from you, but like,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
But yeah, spite success feels real good.
Yeah, it
real
does.
good.
Yep. So we get kind of a montage of her buying the coolest laptop of the time.
In the first college scene or the first law school scene where like in class, you see everyone has a black laptop and she has like a paper and pen. And I even said to myself, oh, this is at a time where like we only like really nerdy, like rich kids would have a laptop, right? Because that would be so rare. I mean, desktop computers were the norm, but not laptops, right?
Yeah.
And then she's the only one that doesn't have a black, like DOS based laptop. She gets an Apple, like it was like an early iteration of a MacBook, right?
It is. So it's the MacBook before the MacBook.
Yeah.
And when I was in high school, there were a few kids that had them, but they were like, it was the first time there'd ever been computers in color like that, because and you could get them in all colors of the rainbow. I don't know why she doesn't have a pink one, because they made a pink one.
Yeah, I think hers is orange, but it should have been pink. Yeah,
it should have been pink, and I just desperately wanted one, but they were very, very expensive.
Doesn't she even say whoever said orange is the new pink is crazy or whatever? At one
It's
point
clearly
in this movie?
disturbed.
Yeah, clearly disturbed. She talked Cameron Diaz out of buying a sweater at Fred Siegel,
and then she buys the orange over the pink. That's wild.
Yeah. So we get a montage of her also carrying books, working in the library, on the elliptical, reading, watching the news.
You see it like studying in various situations. Like she is working hard at school. Like I'd liked these things. My sister went to law school, is a lawyer now. She works at the State Department. And she said, if you can get through your first 3 years of law school, you'll be fine. And law school,
Yeah.
law school was 3
Law
years
school
long.
is 3
like,
years
it's
long, yeah.
difficult. That's what she was saying. Like, it's a difficult. She went to GW, but like, it's difficult. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she did it with 2 kids.
Damn.
Yeah. She's like one of my heroes because she dropped out of college when she was, I think, through her 2nd year and started a family, right? They started a family. And then later in life, she was like, hey, I think I want to write foreign policy and work in
Oh
government.
my
Jeez.
God. What?
Yes, bitch.
Yeah, and her husband Dan, who I love, like they're my heroes in life. Like they're like the best couple in the world. Anyway, so her husband Dan was like, okay, let's get you back in college. So she finished her undergrad, and then they were in Seattle or Olympia at the time. And she was like, well, I think I want to go to GW because it's in DC and I want to work in like government. And he was like, okay, cool. So they moved across the country so she could go to school there. And like,
Pop off, sis.
That is
Yes.
a supportive partner.
yeah, she's been
Yeah.
working she worked in Homeland Security first and now is at the State Department. Yeah.
That's amazing.
But like, yeah, she's amazing. Like, and so is Dan. Dan's amazing too. Yeah. She's like the kind of smart that I'm not. Like, I may have a high IQ or whatever, but I'm also real dumb. She has a high IQ and is real smart.
So we cut to, after kind of this montage, we cut to a scene of her driving Paulette to the trailer to take the dog back.
Yeah.
And they do a bunch of fake legal jargon to confuse her ex, who is gross.
Yeah,
Like,
he's fully
they
grown.
code him as so terrible. Like, you, within 3 lines, you're just like, yeah, take that dog.
You'd be moving that dog to a better situation for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's clear from the way that he speaks to Paulette that he is verbally abusive at the least.
Yep.
He sucks. Why would you? And he's like, oh, you come back here to like beg me to take you back,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Show me what I'm definitely not missing.
Yeah.
And you're just like, ooh.
He's a dick. He sucks.
So we cut to her in class, in Callahan's class, and they're debating the rights of the parental rights of a sperm donor, which is actually what I think is really interesting. This is the one class scene that I'm like, okay, this is actually probably something that would happen in law school, where essentially Warner makes one argument and then she makes a counter argument and the
Right.
class kind of examines the validity of both. And I actually think it's kind of interesting to see her kind of the wheels turn of like, well, if this, then that,
Yeah.
and then take that to its conclusion.
Yeah.
Where she basically is like, well, unless you're going to look for visitations for like every time you jerk off, like you don't have any particular rights in this case. Why this one? You're clearly stalking these people.
Yeah.
But after class, Callahan's just like, hey, you're applying for my internship, right? Do you have a resume? And she hands it to him and it's pink and scented. And remember that when we get to fun facts.
I mean, there was no way I'd forget that. So, yeah.
No, of course.
I do love that when she leaves that scene and Luke Wilson walks in, the professor hands Luke Wilson the resume and he's like, smell this. And he does. And he's like, what does that smell like? And he goes, it smells great. He's so genuine. He's like, oh, it smells great.
It's so nice.
I like good
Yeah.
smells.
We've established that Mikey has a thing with smells.
He does. And I honestly have like almost no sense of smell.
Or taste, obviously.
Otherwise, you'd be eating clone babies. Is that where you're going with this? Anyway, so both Vivian and Warner get it, and Elle. So like they've all gotten this internship. So they're going to be working together. And she walks up to him and just says, hey, do you remember those 4 amazing hours in the hot tub after formal? This is so much better than that.
And I do love that Selma Blair is like 4 hours.
4 hours.
Because she was thinking of the prudiness, as we have established.
Yeah,
She's
she's
like,
just
that's
like-
disgusting.
Like, who has to clean that filter out? Like,
Oh.
that's definitely something you do at an Airbnb and not at your place.
Of course. I just pictured like a pool filter just full of used condoms.
That's what I was thinking. Like,
For a hot second, I watched Mikey's face to see if he was going to be like, I have somewhere to go. Hold tight. I have a pool filter to go address.
Condoms.
Mikey would never have that problem.
You're going to get a venereal disease.
And a baby.
I just want the baby part.
Oh my
Well, you don't get to
God.
choose. You don't get to choose.
Would you take both though, Mikey?
Is it one of the curable ones?
You don't get to choose.
It's like Russian roulette every time, Mikey.
Oh, I don't know then.
That's the reality, dipshit.
Mikey has a PhD. Like, wait, no.
A pretty hot dick. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Hot because of the fever from the infection.
Oh my God. I don't get out that much.
It is Russian roulette every time.
Yeah.
You could easily catch a case of the babies, which is with you for at least 18 years.
But that's what he wants.
Who wants a baby without any of the love? Like, why would you?
See, thank you, Andrea. Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome to the intervention, Andrea.
Haven't you heard the song, What is Love? Baby, Don't Hurt Me?
Mikey, I've written this letter to you about how your choices have affected me in the following ways.
I love that even though this is only audio, Paige reached out and got like a piece of paper to like use as a prop for this fake intervention. Holy
It was
shit.
just for us.
I make one joke and take you down like this huge rabbit hole.
Yeah, well, it's because you're in people's huge rabbit holes and you don't know what's at the bottom of it.
I do, because you got to hit bottom.
Is the bottom the surface? Okay, I'm just going to not make
It
this
is.
joke.
It is.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they get to their first day of the internship, and I do like that Elle and Vivian run into each other,
Yes.
and Elle makes a point to just say, "You look very nice today, Vivian." Like, she is actively trying to be nice to her.
I think that after she realizes that she doesn't want to be with Warner, she starts to be much nicer to Vivian. And like,
Yeah.
we're not enemies anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not here for that.
Yeah.
It's still,
Yeah.
it's hard to be friends with your ex's fiance.
And to be honest, I wish that she had never viewed Vivian as an enemy. And I know that's a
Same.
very difficult thing from a story point, but I do like that that's where this goes eventually. And that at a certain point, Vivian does something mean to her and then feels bad about it and then apologizes. And it's like, I love that as the movie goes on, there is so much less competition between the female characters at all.
Well, because
Yeah.
they're building respect for each other. And I think part of her like complimenting Vivian is like, oh, we have to work together. Like, we're working together. I can't open, we should kind of be nice to each other,
Yeah. So we do find out that their client is Brooke Wyndham, or formerly, I guess, Brooke Taylor, who is played by Ali Larter. And she's an exercise guru that had graduated from Delta Nu, the same sorority, like 4 years before
Yeah.
Elle did. And she seems guilty because there's no murder weapon. She was the last person seen covered in blood. And when they interview her, she's like, I didn't do it. I checked on him. And then Enrique, who's the pool boy, and Chutney, the daughter, came in. And they're kind of questioning her like, hey, your husband is 34 years older than you.
Yeah.
People are going to have questions. And she just says, show him a picture of his dick. That should clear it up. Because she's just like, yeah, no, I actually liked him.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sweet.
When I saw this when I was like a kid, I realized that I was going to have to make a lot of money.
Yeah. He did both.
I know. And she had her own money too.
Yeah, she was independently wealthy, which is why they know she didn't kill him for the money.
Right.
Yeah.
And she refuses to give them an alibi and says that she'll be in prison, which again, as we've covered, if she had just given them an alibi at the police station, she probably wouldn't even be on trial.
No,
Yeah.
no, she wouldn't. She has an alibi. Yeah.
The other thing, too, at the very end of the movie with the perm, you would have had to have gotten another perm by the time this actually went to trial.
Yes.
Yeah, because like it takes like 2 years for cases to go to
Yes!
trial.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your curls are still intact. Okay, that was 3 perms ago.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
So as everyone's leaving, Brooke notices Elle and is like, wait, I know you. And she's like, yeah, I took your class in LA. And there's this moment of kind of camaraderie with her and Brooke where Brooke is like, well, at least I trust you,
Yeah.
Right.
within this legal team.
Yeah. And at least one of you has brains. I love that.
Right.
Yeah.
So we cut to the nail salon and Elle's getting her nails done and the UPS guy shows up and he has a package for Paulette.
Yeah.
And so she is kind of like at a loss for words.
Well, and it's very clear he's into her, or at least socially
Yeah.
unaware, because he walks up and says, I got a package.
He's got a package.
Yeah. I love the way she says that, like almost like scandalized a little bit, but like
Yeah.
scandalized in a good way. Like, oh, he's got a package.
Oh.
He's got a pizza with extra sausage and you're his stepsister. Like,
Whoa.
Paige, we watch the same videos online.
I don't believe that Todd watches porn because those girls are not wearing enough layers to be sexy.
I'm going to need 4 condoms. Thank you. I just don't want it to get cold. Anyway, so he's clearly either into her or socially unaware or whatever.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
she just completely blanks out. He leaves. And this is where Elle decides to teach her the bend and snap. Now, one thing about this scene, for the most part, all the women in the salon in this scene besides Elle are either one of the following: women of color,
Yeah.
normal to overweight, or elderly.
That's true.
Yeah.
Which I found really, I wish it was this diverse in the rest of the movie.
Me too.
It's literally only this scene, but I was struck by how in this scene she's really kind of espousing this idea of like, use what you're working with, whatever it is you're working with.
Yes.
Yeah.
And is complimenting every woman on her bend and snap. There's the pregnant woman, there's the older women, there's the fatter women, and she's just like, yes, everyone, work what you've got.
Yeah.
And I kind of like, I remembered not loving the bend and snap when I saw this as like a teenager. And as an adult, I'm like, I mean, it's dumb, but I kind of do like her basically saying like, every woman has something to offer, show it off.
Yeah.
Is kind of this idea.
Well, and there's something that the second half of the movie is doing, which is that it's focusing on female camaraderie and the concept that
Yes.
we should not be enemies. We're all kind of
Yes.
in this thing together. So I think that scene specifically shows that off really well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we cut to the office where they still need the alibi from Brooke. So she goes to prison to talk to her and brings her Cosmo. And then like,
I think you mean the Bible page. She brings
Yeah.
the Bible.
this was an especially weird time at Cosmo too.
Yeah, and
Like-
when there was a lot of just like quizzes on like how to please your man, and it was always
Yes.
like involving edible like foods like whipped cream and honey and things, and you're like, I don't want my bed to be sticky. I don't understand this.
I don't understand that at all either.
No, me either. Like the bees,
Yeah.
and it's cold, and I don't need any
Oh,
of that.
God, the bees!
Oh God, the base. Yeah, this was a period of Cosmo that was like, you're fat and that's bad, but also you have to suck a dick this way. Also bring strawberries. Also, you all have to buy this Clinique lip gloss. Also, you're a Scorpio, and here's an article about why that affects your orgasm.
My favorite part about this era of Cosmo is that I was reading it as someone who had no idea about sex. And so I
Yes.
was just like, an ice cube on his dick? Really? And then
Yeah.
once you've had sex, you're like, that's the worst idea ever. No one
Give
wants
his
that.
dick an Indian burn. Okay.
You're like, who wrote this article? Just like girls in middle school who have no idea what sex is? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, it is. And with like drawings too.
Yes.
Of like bend backwards over a chair in a full split and then have him enter you from the top.
Enter you from the top.
Yeah, like a whale with a blowhole.
No. Like you are upside down in an office chair with your legs akimbo. And then he has
okay.
to like climb, like scale the office
He has
chair.
to literally mount you.
Yeah. He has to get to the precipice.
How strong
of-
is the office chair?
I mean, they put a lot of stock in office chairs and their
I
strength.
broke one yesterday. Sitting in it, normal.
Well, you've also broken 2 mic stands with your hands. So
That is true.
Mikey's so strong. This explains
I'm going to
the-
isolate that audio and just send that to Mikey so he can enjoy himself later privately.
That'll be my text message noise.
I want that to be the noise that plays every time Mikey gets a weird DM from a fan. That's
So she visits her in prison and she finds out that the reason that she could not have killed her husband was because she was getting liposuction that morning.
which this is so of the time because I've never
Yes.
met a man that's like, I want your butt to be smaller. Literally, no comments ever. Like, no.
Yes,
Never.
that's true.
Never.
Because this was the period in time where everyone was wearing those very tiny leather pants. But essentially the implication is that her fitness business is a fraud because she can't actually make those body changes through fitness. She's having to get liposuction because she's the face of the brand.
Which is real sad, honestly.
yeah.
Like, there's nothing wrong with being an exercise instructor. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
absolutely.
not saying that she hasn't painted herself into a corner by saying that you should be,
Yeah.
like, not have a butt, I guess, is what her ultimate goal is. But, like,
no, here's the thing is, I think she is worried about her image and believes that if she does not look perfect, then people will not invest in her exercise materials.
sure. And there probably is, like, an actual real
Yeah.
element of that out there, which is sad. But, I mean, people, I don't know. I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah, no, let's not.
Yeah, it's just too much to talk about. It's ridiculous.
There's podcasts about that. Just go look at those.
Go look at those podcasts. I love you, Mikey, so much.
Thanks.
You love me too. I get it. Thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah.
I just say I know. I'm the Han Solo of this podcast.
You, honestly, you really are. And if you've seen my feet, you know I'm the Chewie.
Anyway, so we cut back to the office. She won't give anyone the alibi. They send Vivian to get coffee pretty conspicuously, that they're like not letting her actually work on stuff. They're just sending her for coffee. Anyway, but they find out that they're supposed to interview the deceased, so Brooke's husband's first wife, who is Chutney's mom.
Yeah.
So she and Emmett decide to go out to a spa to talk to her.
They also know that the mom of Chutney has an alibi. Like, she has like 10 people
Yes,
that
they know
vouch
she
for her
wasn't there.
that could not have been her. So they're like, well, we're fine to interview her because she's not a suspect.
Right.
Right, exactly. But she and Emmett have this really interesting conversation on the way where he kind of confronts her about like, why do you think Brooke is such a good person? She seems untrustworthy because she's a woman who makes her money telling other women they're too fat, which I did appreciate someone calling this out within the movie.
Yeah.
I really did. I was just like, good for you, early 2000s, because this never happens in early 2000s movies. But Elle does defend her and basically says she would never do that. That's not how she would address somebody in this situation.
Right. But I definitely understand why that might be the stereotype of that person.
Yeah, but the fact that they would identify that as a problem, I think is great.
Yeah.
But so they get to the spa, they interview Raquel Welch, who is the first wife, and she really kind of casts aspersions on Brooke regarding the cabana boy, where she's like, I heard she was sleeping with the pool boy. And this will become kind of a greater narrative that multiple people are investing in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Elle doesn't believe her, but Emmett's like, well, why? Like, you can't just
not believe people for no reason.
Yeah, it's not just your intuition. And you can't just discriminate against her as a brunette, basically.
Yeah,
and she
that's
says,
pretty funny.
It is pretty funny.
Did you see the icky brown color of her hair?
She's like, why shouldn't I? I'm discriminated against as a blonde. And he says something which I think is really great, where it's basically this idea of you have power you do not think you have, and you should use it. Like, be you.
Yeah.
Channel the you that you have. And she's like, okay. So they agree to meet up tomorrow for work. And as she's walking back to her dorm, she walks past two girls being mean to the guy kind of from her study group that helped her get books down and stuff like that.
The tall genius guy who's got like a PhD and other things, right? And
the one who was deworming orphans in Somalia.
And speaks Russian.
But like he's asking one of them out and they're being super mean to him. Like, I'm so glad
mean.
that I've asked a lot of women out that have said no to me, but they've always done it in like, I think the most polite way is just be like, that's not something I'm interested in. No, thank you. Like that. That is a response I'm fine with. The response he gets, and I think the reason she turns around is because they don't handle it that way. They're like, why would you ever think I'd ever want to go out with someone even remotely like you? And I think that's why she turns around.
Yeah, women like me don't go out with dorks like you. Yeah.
Like, we're in Harvard Law. We're all sort of nerds. Like, what are we talking about right now?
Also, like, first of all, I've never seen this happen ever. I've never seen a girl be like, why would you think I would ever go out with you? And a big part of that is because we don't want to be murdered by someone twice our size.
I was about to say that. Like, there's probably a safety aspect of why that doesn't really happen.
It's a huge safety aspect.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's happened. I've met mean people. Like, I can imagine that, but it has never been my experience that is the response because murder.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, I think most people are generally not that mean. Like, I would hope that the women who were just nice to me weren't thinking that and they were just like saying it in a nice way because they thought I would murder them.
I mean, they may have been thinking
like
it and just said it in a nice way, but it's like a 50-50. Yeah.
They're like, this man with 6 jackets clearly has issues and I'm worried that they might play out on me.
How many guns are in those pockets?
None. I can't own a gun.
Oh, no.
Me either for 4 more years.
Are you counting down? Wait.
Add to the skull collection. Anyway, so she walks over, slaps him, implies that they spend a magical night of passion together, and then walks away, prompting the girls to be like, maybe you're not a dork after all. But like, why would you still want to go out with somebody who's that mean to you?
Yes.
Like,
we don't see his response to that really, but I wish he'd been like, no, I'm good.
No, I'm going to go tab that again.
Right?
So we cut to the dorms where Elle's reading up on the depositions and Vivian comes in to get the same deposition that she's looking at to review it for the case. And this is where she kind of introduces Vivian to Bruiser, and Vivian expresses kind of frustration that she constantly gets asked to get coffee. She's not actually working on the case.
Yeah.
And she reveals that when Warner first applied to Harvard, he got waitlisted.
Yeah.
Da-da, and his dad had to make a call, which means that when Warner is saying you're not smart enough, Elle is smart enough.
Warner's not smart enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. His senator father had to call and like get him in.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we cut to the trial has started, and what's really interesting is they're interviewing Linda Cardellini first, and then they go interview the pool boy, and then they interview Linda Cardellini again, which is not how that would happen, but like for the story they need it, I think.
My thing is that they're a pretty poor defense because they didn't ask the pool boy why he was lying.
Oh, they could have dug into why like who is paying him to make that lie or whatever.
Yeah.
What his motivation is to lie. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't. They just they end it at the lie and don't investigate it further, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So we get Linda Cardellini's series of events where she basically says that she saw Brooke standing over her father's body covered in his blood, and she and the pool boy discovered it. Then we cut to the pool boy, Enrique Salvatore, and they show his uniform, which is a thong, and basically are like, are you having an affair? And he's like, yes, and has no proof of it. But that's not enough to like completely invalidate his testimony.
Right.
Yeah. Most people don't take video every time they have sex.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay.
I mean, generally you shouldn't.
Well, proof of an affair could be like a love letter. It could,
it could be a
variety
receipt
of
from a
things.
restaurant,
Something.
like any number of things. Texts,
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be video, but can be.
But it can be.
Don't rule it out.
As they're leaving court for the day, Brooke turns to Elle and is like, you know, a Delta Nu would never sleep with a man who wears a thong. I just like watching him clean the filters. And we cut to the salon where Paulette bends and snaps and breaks the UPS guy's nose.
I love that so much.
So
I thought it
funny.
was so funny. Yeah. And I love that she ends up with that guy. Like it's not about the
Me
bend
too.
and snap. I love that.
So Paulette calls Elle at work, and as she's on the phone with her, the pool boy steps in front of her in line for the water fountain, cutting her in line. And she kind of like taps her foot for him to hurry up. And he turns around and just says, don't stomp your little last season Prada shoes at me, honey.
Yeah.
And she's like, wait, why does he know the brand of my shoes? Which is a pretty, it's
Wild
a stereotype.
stereotype.
It's
Yeah.
a wild
stereotype.
stereotype. And it does prove to be correct, but I think that was pretty flimsy to base it on. Because she does go inside and he's like, Warner, what kind of shoes are these? And he's like, black shoes.
Honestly, both men in that situation were correct. They were black Prada shoes. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So they start cross-examining, and first Callahan's like, well, there's no proof of this affair, so we're not going to address it.
which is like a shitty technique. Like he's like, well, there's no proof, so whatever.
Yeah. So Emmett steps in and he asks kind of a couple follow-up questions and gets him into almost like a pattern of like question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. And then his third question is, and your boyfriend's name is, and he just says Chuck, and then catches himself and says, well, Chuck is just a friend. And then we reveal that Chuck is in the courtroom and is very upset
I love that
his
so
relationship has
much.
been misrepresented,
Yeah.
as he should be.
Yeah.
Which also, though, like, you know that your partner is on trial lying about his relationship with a woman. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, it's weird that he would be there and that would be the finer point where he gets upset. Like, it doesn't really
Right.
make sense. But for the story, it's very funny.
Oh, I just read Chuck as super supportive.
Yeah.
And just knew that his boyfriend would have to be lying under oath, and that's stressful.
So we cut to after court. She runs into Vivian in the hallway, and Vivian's like, hey, Callahan wants to see you. So she goes into the office, and Callahan, under the auspices of talking about her career, hits on her, clearly. And Vivian sees it, but only sees like a second of it. She doesn't see the entire interaction.
Yeah.
And so Elle rebuffs him and leaves and basically quits because of it. And as she's leaving, Vivian kind of confronts her and is like, oh, did you sleep with the jury too? Maybe we could win. Basically implying that Elle had slept her way to the top, which is very upsetting.
Yeah.
We cut to outside. She tells Emmett that she's quitting and tells him what happened, that Callahan hit on her. That's why she's quitting.
Yeah.
And she basically says, I don't want to keep trying to be something I'm not. And he says, well, what if you're trying to be something that you are? Because you are good at
Yeah.
this. Like, you have value. You are talented and good at this. And so we cut to her at the salon saying goodbye to Paulette and explaining what has happened. And lo and behold, her other professor is there and says, if you're going to let one stupid prick ruin your life, you're not the girl I thought you were, which is pretty victim blaming.
Yeah.
It's not a great thing to say to someone who has been sexually harassed.
Not, I will offer your support. Let's go to the dean. Like, none of that.
Yeah. I respect where she's coming from. This idea of your talent is more important than his reputation. Does that make sense? Or whatever. But that's not what she says.
Right.
Yeah. The way she says it is pretty problematic.
Pretty shitty.
So we cut to prison where they're talking to Brooke. And on TV, we can see Callahan taking credit for her work, which is kind of fucked up.
I mean, that's what bosses have been doing for ages.
Literally
like that.
forever.
So Brooke is like, why should I trust him? And they're like, I mean, you kind of have to. He's your lawyer. And they reveal that Elle quit, which obviously upsets Brooke.
Yeah.
Vivian acts like it was because she was sleeping with Callahan, and then Emmett sets her straight, like immediately. It's like, that's not what happened. You don't know. And Vivian immediately is like, oh no, like I made it worse because of what I said to her and whatever.
She does immediately sort of take ownership of what she said and like, oh shit. Yeah. I liked that.
And Emmett says maybe there's something we can do about it. So we get to court the next day and Brooke fires Callahan, and they bring Elle in as her new representation.
Yeah.
Under a very specific statute that allows her to practice while supervised.
Yes, a plot device.
Yeah, it's a plot device. And Emmett is willing to supervise. So we see Bernadette is there with the UPS guy. Her sorority sisters show up for to see her first case.
Well, and the prosecutor is like, this is fantastic. Yes.
Yeah, good for me. Thank you. I have no problem with this. And she starts questioning Chutney, the daughter. And this is where we find out that she goes through like 2 whole minutes of like, so you were in the shower when you got in the shower. And then we reveal that Chutney had a perm that morning. So she couldn't have been in the shower, which means she would have heard the shot and seen who killed her father. And because she still has her curls, she wasn't in the shower.
The argument still works if she had a perm or not currently. Like, she would still took a shower after her perm.
How long do you think perms last, Mikey?
No, but I mean, like, she got her to admit, yes, I know I'm not supposed to get wet after a perm, so, like, why did you take a shower?
But also, shower caps exist. Like, this whole thing could have been foiled by, I was wearing, like, a shower cap.
She says, I was washing my hair in the shower.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And she has an outburst of, like, I didn't mean to shoot him. I meant to shoot you, which, by the way, would result in a mistrial.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at the end of this, they're like, take her to sentencing. And I'm like, no. That's a mistrial because that's an excited utterance. Now they're going to have to redo the whole thing.
Yeah.
And recharge and refile. It's like a whole whatever. Anyway, Elle's victorious. She says the rules of hair care are simple and finite. Any Cosmo girl will have known. Which, by the way, no, they are not.
Yeah,
the rules of hair care are not simple or finite. That is a bizarre, like, that's so crazy.
What kind of hair do you have? What kind of stuff are you putting in it? What color did you add?
Exactly. Like, what curl tightness do you have? What texture do you have? Yeah. So we cut to 2 years later, and she's graduating, and she is the class elected speaker, and she's been invited to join a prestigious law firm. We see her parents in the audience, her mom and her dad raises a martini in the middle of her graduation.
I love it.
And she has like a 1.5-minute long speech. And my dad turned to me as we were watching it and he was like, this is the shortest graduation speech ever. I was
thought
like,
the
all
same
graduation speeches should be this
Yes.
short.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Normalize it.
3 sentences. Let's go.
Yeah. And we get kind of like an epilogue as they throw the caps and everything, where we find out that Vivian dumped Warner and now she and Elle are best friends.
Yeah.
Warner graduates without a job, without a girlfriend, and without something like his
Without
life
honors.
is terrible.
Yeah.
And without honors. That's what it is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, like, if you graduate from Harvard Law, you're going to be okay.
Yeah, his life is not terrible.
Yeah.
He's still going to be a fucking federal senator, rich douchebag. It'll be
Yeah,
fine.
like, I feel like he
Yeah.
probably could have got a job.
He could still become president, honestly.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's fine.
We also find out that Paulette married a UPS guy and is pregnant.
Specifically that UPS guy that was like delivering her.
Not just any.
Yeah.
That specific Dermot Mulroney looking motherfucker. Yeah.
My favorite part is even in the afterward, he is never named. He's always the UPS guy.
It's like the bass player in That Thing You Do. Yeah.
Was he still wearing his UPS uniform? Because that would have been
Yes,
amazing.
he
I
is.
thought so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Yeah,
So funny.
I love that so much. Yeah.
And then we get to Emmett, who left Callahan's firm to start his own firm. He and Elle have been dating for 2 years, and Emmett is proposing to Elle tonight.
I love that.
Which I love, because it's this idea of like she works really hard to get great things for herself and then also ends up getting the things she wanted in the beginning.
Absolutely, yeah.
But with like a much better, sweeter
Yes.
dude who like accepts her and sees her and all those great things.
That was my favorite
Yeah.
part, was when she's like, Warner, you fucking suck.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And that's the movie.
the movie.
So having seen the movie, having talked about the movie, what do you guys think about Legally Blonde?
This really held up for me. I liked it a lot. I enjoyed watching it. I will have to watch it probably more. I'll have to bring it back for rewatches more frequently.
It's still my feel good. I still love it. I just like, I know that there are like problematic parts with stereotyping and some weird stuff, but I also overall am like, yeah, it sucks when someone you respect tries to hit on you and you don't want to hang out with them anymore. That sucks.
Yeah, I liked a lot of aspects of it. This is the second time I've seen it. I saw it once, I think in high school, and then again last night, and I remember not liking it when I first saw it. I can't remember why though, but
Because we were like 15.
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, probably. But I liked it this time. I thought it was good. Like Andrea and Paige said, there are some problematic elements to it, but it's still a pretty good movie. And for the time, I feel like it holds up pretty well for like an early 2000s movie.
I think that what it does that I love is that it's pretty feminist for its time.
Yes, for its time, yeah.
It's definitely white feminism. That's definitely problematic, but in the ways where it's saying like, what if we aren't in competition? What if we uplift each other? Like, I like that part of it.
And it does that.
Yeah, I like
Yeah. Mikey, do you have any final thoughts?
It's okay. I mean, I thought it was pretty okay. I mean, like, I see why people love it.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you and I are not its target audience, but I was fully about to cry when Tonight came up on the screen about the engagement. I was like, oh, I was like super sad. And then, of course, Natalie, from being asleep, wakes up to start singing that song at the end. And that was so funny. Oh, man.
Because it is the perfect day.
That's
She's
adorable.
graduating with honors because she worked hard to do it. And then also she gets to be with the person she loves who respects her.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we completely missed their romance story. Like, there really isn't much romance in this movie
There
at
really
all.
isn't one.
But I'm fine with that. It doesn't bother me at all. It's just not really a rom-com, I don't think.
Yeah, I'll talk about it in fun facts because the alternate ending would have made it even less of a rom-com.
Oh, wow. Well, do you want to get into fun facts? Let's hit us with those fun facts.
Blondie,
Fun
fun
facts.
facts. Just the first one because we just touched on it. The character of Warner was based on President W. Bush, George W. Bush.
I
Oh,
knew
my
it.
God. That makes
I
so
vibe with
much
that
sense.
hard.
Yeah.
They talk about it in the DVD extras. Okay, so let's talk about that alternate ending. So the movie originally, as written, had the court case being kind of the end, and then Vivian and Elle moving on to start their own legal defense club at Harvard. So it
I
had
love
nothing
that.
to do with Emmett. It's more about their friendship, and it's not about anything else.
That's cool.
I like that.
Yeah. But it does have her and Emmett kissing on the steps of the courthouse. But they were like, this doesn't really feel right because it's her moment where she worked really hard and it didn't have anything to do with the relationship. It was just about
Right.
her succeeding. And test audiences had been like, we don't really care as much about that. We want to see what happens and see her succeed. So that's why they rewrote and then reshot that graduation scene.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So a few things about when this movie is filmed. Reese Witherspoon had just had, so this is right after Cruel Intentions, she had just had her first child.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
So she had
Really?
an infant, yes. So she had
Wow.
an infant baby with her on set
What?
the entire time. And the baby had the flu through most of shooting.
Oh, my
So
God.
Reese Witherspoon barely slept while working on this
no.
movie.
Wow.
Which you can actually, I kind of noticed in a few scenes, I was like, man, either makeup did not quite get her right because she looks exhausted. And then I read this, I was like, oh no, she was just exhausted. Like
Yeah.
that is exactly what happened.
That's amazing. I mean, I still think she delivers an amazing, like a great performance. Like,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
good for her. Like, that's so hard. Good for her.
Yeah.
So alternate casting, it was almost Christina Applegate in this movie instead of
I
Reese
could see that.
Witherspoon.
I can see that too. Yeah.
That makes sense.
She would have done a great job with it.
I think Reese is definitely my choice of the two. I think Christina Applegate would have been a more sarcastic version of it, but I'm still kind of here for that.
Yeah, same. I like Christina Applegate a lot.
Vivian was originally supposed to be Chloe Sevigny, and she turned it down to do a movie called Demon Lover because she didn't think Legally Blonde was going to do well.
And she thought Demon Lover was going to do better than Legally Blonde?
Yeah, apparently she did.
She makes some questionable career choices.
Yeah. The scene where they vote on the toilet paper is based on an actual sorority campaign from a sorority at James Madison University. And it became like they were campaigning with the student, like their house was owned under like student housing.
Yeah.
So it was like them versus maintenance to get 2-ply toilet paper.
That's really
which
funny.
was pretty
That's
funny.
amazing.
Okay, so let's talk briefly before we dig into some other fun facts about Legally Blonde, the book, because Legally Blonde is essentially a book written about the life of a woman named Amanda Brown, who was a fashion major who then ends up going to Stanford Law School. And she wrote the entire manuscript for the book on pink paper in pen.
What?
By hand. Yes.
Wow. That's
Yes.
That's a boss move.
yeah.
And then she turned it in. And if you've never submitted writing samples or anything, you might not know. Whenever you submit anything, especially if it's called an unsolicited submission, so they didn't
Yeah.
ask you to send it, you're just sending it.
Yeah.
It ends up in a slush file that readers may eventually get through, and then sometimes they just throw huge piles of things away, and they just never get read.
Well, and also you're never getting that back.
No.
No, of course not.
I know from the music side of things, most places don't take unsolicited material. They will throw it away immediately. They don't even listen to it. Yeah.
Well, and what I have to imagine is that she had a handwritten copy and then made copies, I assume. But regardless, she always did it on pink paper. And so the reader at the publisher saw a pink manuscript and was like, the fuck is this shit? And read it because it was pink.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is baffling to me because by the time I got to film school and was working as a reader, you threw out anything that was not to standard.
Yeah.
So the fact that somebody didn't throw it out because it was pink and actually read it is bonkers. But so that's how it becomes a book and then later becomes a movie. But it is based on a woman's real life.
That's crazy.
So as agreed in Reese Witherspoon's contracts, she got to keep all 60 of her outfits from this film.
Oh my God.
I'm surprised it was 60.
Yep.
That's crazy. That's a lot.
60. Let's talk about the LSATs. So a perfect score on the LSAT is 180.
Yeah. So she
which
almost
means
got a
that
perfect score.
Yeah, she almost got a perfect
Yeah.
score. It puts her in the top 0.1% of people that take the LSAT,
Yeah.
which is nuts.
That's insane.
She has 60 outfits, but she has 40 different hairstyles in this movie.
Oh my
Good
God.
Lord.
The Chihuahua who played Bruiser was named Mooney, and he died on March 10th, 2016 at the age of 18.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
So he had a good old long Chihuahua
Aw,
life.
good boy.
Did he work again? Did he work more after this?
Yep.
Legally Blonde
Nice.
2 and 3.
But also just like anytime they need a Chihuahua, it's that
Yeah.
Chihuahua,
Awesome.
basically.
I did like that while she's working out, he's watching the Taco Bell commercial.
Yeah, that was so cute.
It's so cute. Yeah, I loved it.
They originally wanted to set the movie at University of Chicago, and the school declined. So they actually end up filming most of this at Caltech in Pasadena,
Okay.
Oh,
is
wow.
where both Harvard and the fake school, air quotes, CULA, which is definitely supposed to be UCLA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as a dyslexic person, I thought it was UCLA.
It basically is. So in the novel, Elle, because and it is a novelization, even though it's based on the woman Amanda's life. She bases it on all the letters she wrote home from Stanford about not fitting in. In the novel, she names the character Elle after Elle magazine because that's what she was reading at the time, and she was a Delta Gamma instead of a Delta Nu.
Okay. Is Delta Nu an actual sorority?
No.
Okay, I thought it was made up.
Yeah, Delta Nu is made up. Delta Gamma is real. I believe Reese Witherspoon actually dropped out of college before being able to pledge, but apparently had been offered a bid to, I think, Gamma Phi Beta.
Okay.
So she never joined a sorority, but spent a lot of time around the girls before filming this movie.
Fair enough.
So other people that were considered for the role: Charlize Theron, Gwyneth Paltrow, Alicia Silverstone, Katherine Heigl, Mila Jovovich, and
Wow.
Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Yeah. I mean, that's like a murderer's row of who was like, quote unquote, hot at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a ton of deleted scenes, I'm not going to go through them. I guess you can if you want. There's a ton of fun facts about this
Oh, I'm
movie.
sure. Yeah.
Now, I kind of misspoke because Delta Nu is a real sorority in Pennsylvania, but it's the only chapter and it was formed after the film.
Oh, okay.
So like
So they are now, but they weren't then a real sorority.
they are, but they're not. They're an independent sorority. They're not a Panhellenic Conference sorority. So anyway,
Okay.
They don't have like a national charter or anything.
Okay.
Sure. Okay.
And those are your fun facts.
Well, thank you for those fun facts.
Thank you for those film
Let's
facts.
talk some box office. So what do you guys think the budget for Legally Blonde was in 2001?
This is an expensive movie.
40 million.
I'm gonna go 40 as well.
What do you think, Mikey?
I'm gonna say 20.
Mikey's closer. It was $18 million.
Wow.
This
okay.
looks great for 18.
I think it does. Now, I will say $18 million in 2001 would actually be around $28 million, but still, it looks good. It's got pretty great actors in it, especially for the time. They were like high-priced actors at the time. So I think they did a great job with that budget. Now, this movie came out on July 13th, 2001. And it was number one the week it came out. It was number one. The Score was number 2. Cats and Dogs was number 3. Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within was number 4. And then Scary Movie 2 was number 5. But what do you think it made in its first week out, July 13th, 2001?
I think its first week out, it's topping 30 mil.
Okay.
I remember this being so popular.
Yeah,
at the time.
okay.
Yeah, I would say even more. I would say like 35, maybe.
Okay.
20.
Mikey is right. It's $20.3 million.
That's still a good opening week.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's more than its budget. And if you adjust for inflation, that's $31 million. So you guys were closer once you adjust for inflation, right? So what do you think it went on to make in its total domestic run?
Do you know how many weeks it was in the theater?
I can give you that. It was in the theater for 24 weeks. It was
Half a
in
year.
the theater. Yeah, it was in the theater from July 13th until the end of December of that year.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to say this makes a cool 150.
I don't know. 120?
Just because it's in the theater for so long.
Yeah.
Like 6 months. Yeah.
I'm gonna say 100.
Mikey, you're closer. It is $96 million. If you adjust for inflation, though, Paige, 150 exactly, 150.7 technically, but really great. Some notable facts that are sort of sad. This movie was in theaters when September 11th happened.
Oh.
Yep.
The week after September 11th happened, it didn't do great just because no one did great.
Yeah. No one went to the theaters.
The weekend after that, the weekend of September 21st, it jumped up so much in the money it made. So like this was one of the movies people went to go see again after September 11th. And I think that's super interesting.
Because it cheered people up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's super interesting. Anyway, so what do you think it made for its worldwide total box office? So this includes domestic and international.
Man, I know I saw it like opening week.
Oh, yeah?
When it came out
Okay.
in theaters. Yeah, I remember. Worldwide, I don't know how well this would do overseas. I'm not sure. But I would say it probably makes at least another 60
Okay.
overseas.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'd say like 150 total, maybe.
Okay. Mikey, do you have a guess?
140.
Mikey, it made 141.08 or 141.
You're on a roll today.
Yeah.
Mikey. Oh
Mikey
my
is
God.
looking at the numbers. So if you want to know the breakdown, it is 45 million internationally, 96 domestically. Did very, very well. If you adjust that for inflation, though, that is $221 million today. So it did very,
wow.
very well on what would be a $18 million budget.
Yeah.
Or if you adjust it for inflation, it was like high 20s. Yeah, really, really good. That's why they made Legally Blonde 2, the Legally Blonde that's not Legally Blonde 3, and they're currently making Legally Blonde 3 that should be out next year.
No, they're not. Why would they do a third one?
Well, it's the first one that Reese Witherspoon is going to be back for.
Well, she was back in 2.
Sorry,
She's in the
yeah,
second
she
one,
wasn't
but yeah.
in the, what was, if you look at all the numbered films, she's not in that one that doesn't have a number. I forget the name of that one, but
That one was literally like straight to TV or like
Oh,
straight to
was it?
Netflix
Okay.
or something. Yeah, it doesn't really count.
But Ellie Woods, Serena, Paulette, and Margot are back for the third one that comes out next year.
Ooh,
Nice.
Okay.
So, Mikey, do you have a
Alright.
review for us to read?
Mm-hmm.
So, Mikey, whose review are you going to read this week?
Bellamy 18
Yeah?
says yes 1,000 times yes.
I love it.
There's no accent Mikey could do to fully express how much I adore this show and the 3 hosts.
Oh, we should have made him try, though.
I love them so much I falled over from the horror version and I don't
Oh.
like rom-coms. They're consistently hysterical, and Paige's research blows me away.
It's very kind.
This podcast is one of the best out there.
Agree.
Even though they haven't done 40 Days and 40 Nights yet.
Oh, I saw 40 Days and 40 Nights in the theaters.
That movie.
Oh my God, we should
that
do
movie
that.
is
The
problematic.
Feather. We've got to
We
do
gotta
40
do that
Days
one.
and 40
Yeah.
Nights.
Okay,
That's
okay.
the Josh Hartnett one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where he gets
Yeah.
raped at the end, and his love interest gets mad that he got raped.
Yeah, this is a wildly upsetting film.
That's right. I forgot about that. Oh my God.
Well, thank you so much for that awesome 5-star review. And if you want to have Mikey read your 5-star review, leave us a 5-star review.
Do you think they're still together?
Sure, I think they're together.
I think
Yeah.
they're still together.
Yeah, I think they are.
The movie sort of posits that they are, right?
Yeah.
This week we watched Legally Blonde for Andrea's guest appearance. Thank you so much, Andrea.
Yes.
And Mikey, what are you making us watch next week?
We're starting Christmas.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yay.
I'm picking one of my favorite Lifetime Hallmark weird Christmas movies
I love
called
it.
12 Dates of Christmas,
Yes.
where Amy Smart relives Christmas Eve over and over again until she falls in love.
Okay, so
I'm
this is
excited.
like the culmination of your love for Christmas, your love for Lifetime movies, and your love of Groundhog Day ripoff films.
Yes, exactly.
And Amy Smart with her
And Amy Smart.
mouthful of fucking teeth.
yes.
Yep.
So your homework for this week is to, I don't know, relive the same date 12 times and watch 12 dates of Christmas. So Andrea, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is really fun.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Yay.
You're always a huge value add, and we love having you on. We should talk about your new podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, I started a new podcast. It's called Podvant Guard with
Yeah.
my friends Katrina Davis and Jordan Williams. And it is about art history. It's very much in the vein of Cult Podcast, where it's based in research and then we make fun of shit. But it's
Yeah.
about like Lisa Frank and all the weird shit that you didn't get to cover in art history class, because I think that art history, when you go to art school, is based for a specific kind of art that I disagree with. So we're going to talk about Frank Lloyd Wright's cult. We're going to talk
We're going to talk about why Frank Lloyd Wright's houses all leak.
why they all fucking leak. He was a bad architect.
He could barely write buildings.
He was real bad at it. But yeah, we cover a lot of the art history greats. We're going to cover people you've never heard of, but you should. And it's a load of fun. So check us out at
Podvant Guard, and we're on all the Twitters and all those things.
Awesome. So guys, check out
Yeah.
Podvant Guard on
Podvant Guard.
hopefully all of your favorite podcast apps.
And that's spelled PODVANT space GARDE. Podvant Guard.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
And you can find me personally on Instagram at Andrea Guzzetta. I have a website, andreaguzzetta.com. I have my own Patreon. It's a whole thing. So come
Yeah,
Yeah.
check it out. And she's an amazing artist. Like legit, I have commissioned art from her recently.
Yeah, pretty good at it.
Yeah, and not at just like cleaning brushes, although I'm sure you are good at that, but your own brushes.
yeah.
What a dick.
I know. I'm actually horrible at cleaning brushes, which is the irony, is that like,
Well, I bet you could hire that guy to do it for you.
right?
But seriously, thank you so much for being on. You are awesome.
Thank you so
Yes,
much for
huge
having
fan
me.
of yours.
It's so much fun. And I love you guys.
We love you too.
So, yeah, guys, if you like this power throuple that we have here on this podcast, make sure to check out our other podcast, The Horror Virgin. And that is the only other podcast that Mikey and I are on. But Paige gets around, and she is on 2 other podcasts, Black Card Rehab and Cult Podcast. So, guys, definitely check out those because they're amazing. If you want to follow us on social, we are at Romancing the Pod Show
Yes.
on
Yes.
Instagram, and we are at something else on Twitter, who I just have never taken the time to learn
It's just Romancing Pod Show because they have a character limit and it's show SHO like Showtime.
So, guys, check that out as well. And if you want to follow us all individually, Paige is at Rampage Wesley everywhere, including TikTok, except for Twitter, where she is at Paige Wesley. Mikey is at mrandolph24, and I am at Todd J Awesome everywhere. And guys, we got a P.O. box. So if you want to send us some love letters or whatever you might send to a P.O. box, it's actually not a P.O. box. It's like a regular street address. It's pretty awesome. It's 6688 Nolensville Road, number 108-34, Brentwood, Tennessee 37027. So send us some stuff.
Yeah.
That's going to be it for us, you guys. I'm Paige.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm Todd.
And you complete us.
To completion.
Laters, baby.
Mm,
Bye.
you're my heroine now. Mm.
Bye.